Under deserts, hills, and ancient cities stretch labyrinths carved by hands long vanished, tunnels that twist through stone with precision and purpose still beyond our full understanding. In this journey, we trace the silent corridors of civilizations from Persia to Peru, Turkey to Malta, where hidden passages, secret chambers, and subterranean galleries reveal not only the ingenuity of their builders, but also the rituals, beliefs, and mysteries they sought to preserve below the earth. As we uncover faint inscriptions, carefully aligned chambers, and enigmatic recesses in this video, each discovery hints at knowledge deliberately concealed and a world shaped as much inside the stone as on its surface. Step into these hidden networks, where every shadow and stone whispers secrets the centuries have not yet released. The Erdstall-type proto-tunnels of Iron Age Central Europe. Beneath stretches of forest and farmland that once formed the shifting borders of Iron Age Europe lies a network of tunnels so narrow, deliberate, and perplexing that archaeologists still struggle to place them in any familiar cultural or architectural tradition. These passages appear across regions once inhabited by Celtic and Proto-Celtic communities, scattered under Bavaria, Austria, Slovakia, and parts of southern Germany in patterns that seem both widespread and strangely uniform. Their builders left no inscriptions, no obvious markers of ownership, and no agreed-upon explanation for why so much labour and precision were poured into spaces so small that a person can only crawl through them with difficulty, as though the structures were meant for a type of movement or purpose that the surface world never required. What rises immediately from the earth during excavations is the distinctive signature of these so-called Erdstall tunnels, defined by smooth sandstone floors, compacted earthen ceilings, and an unmistakable feature known as the schlupf, a constricted opening that forces the body into a tight, almost ritualistic contortion. The consistent inclusion of these painfully narrow choke points across hundreds of sites suggests an intentional design, one not motivated by simple storage or shelter. Many tunnels contain no soot marks from torches, no domestic debris, and no signs of long-term habitation, leaving only the hollow echo of empty chambers that seem to exist for reasons no written tradition remembers. Some scholars consider them emergency hiding places built in a violent age, yet the restricted dimensions would have rendered any rapid escape nearly impossible, raising questions about why a people versed in practical survival would create a refuge so difficult to enter. Other sections reveal an orderly sense of construction that contradicts the idea of improvised hiding spaces. In certain regions, the tunnels align with no known settlement pattern, yet sit beneath former agricultural areas where Iron Age fields once thrived, prompting theories that they might have served seasonal or symbolic functions related to fertility rites or rites of passage. Artifacts found near a handful of entrances, broken pottery, stone beads, and fragments of animal bone suggest activity associated with ritualized spaces, not hastily assembled shelters. Yet the tunnels themselves offer almost nothing to clarify the intentions of their makers, as though the very purpose of these buried pathways was to remain sealed in silence. The most haunting dimension of the Erdstall system comes from the absence of structural evolution. Over centuries in which Iron Age communities changed pottery styles, burial customs, and settlement layouts, the construction of these tunnels remained remarkably stable. This repetition hints at a cultural memory strong enough to preserve a method, but fragile enough to lose the meaning behind it. Even Roman-era communities that later settled nearby made no written mention of the tunnels, despite their presence beneath fields the Romans surveyed and cultivated, implying that whatever knowledge the earlier inhabitants possessed was not passed forward. The tunnels belonged to a civilization that understood endurance in stone, but accepted oblivion in narrative, leaving archaeologists with a product of human minds whose thoughts have vanished completely. Modern studies show that many passages were cut with stone and iron tools consistent with Iron Age craftsmanship, yet certain curves and angles show a delicacy that seems out of place in a purely defensive or utilitarian structure. Smooth corridors turning through bedrock with subtle precision suggest that the builders respected the physical experience of moving underground in darkness, as though the tunnel was a controlled journey rather than a simple cavity. In some sites, air returns and subtly widening chambers appear at unexpected intervals, features that imply careful planning rather than accidental variation. These quiet refinements lend the impression that the tunnels were meant to shape perception, perhaps even to challenge it, creating an experience known only to those who entered by candlelight or in complete darkness. Theories have multiplied over decades of excavation. Some claim they were ritual spaces connected to beliefs about rebirth, with the narrow schlupf representing symbolic passage from one realm to another. Others believe they facilitated the concealed movement of valued items, perhaps tied to Celtic practices of safeguarding sacred or seasonal objects underground. A smaller group of scholars argues for a more metaphysical function, suggesting that the tunnels might have formed a controlled environment for trance-like experiences, guided by darkness, oxygen limitations, and physical restriction. Each proposal holds fragments of possibility, yet fails to explain their spread over hundreds of miles, or why no community claimed them in traditional folklore before the 19th century rediscoveries. Despite centuries of study, what remains most striking is the emotional effect of entering these tunnels today. With only a single dim light, the passages feel impossibly close, their silence dense and steady, as though the earth itself is withholding something. Dust settles in patterns undisturbed for centuries, and the weight of soil overhead feels heavier than in other confined spaces, perhaps because the tunnels were never meant to be open for casual exploration. Even experienced archaeologists note the uncanny sensation of crawling through them, reporting a persistent impression that the passages were designed for an audience that no longer exists. Nothing in these subterranean paths provides a definitive answer. No carving, no symbol, no mark of ownership. Yet the careful engineering insists that their purpose must have mattered deeply to the people who built them. Centuries have passed since the last Iron Age community shaped these narrow corridors, but the tunnels hold their silence with undiminished intent, carrying the weight of a forgotten meaning that has resisted every attempt at interpretation. And in that silence, it becomes impossible not to wonder what moved beneath the earth before history learned to write. The Ħal-Saflieni Hypogeum tunnels of Malta, circa 4000 BCE. In the dim heart of Malta's oldest settlement traditions, a civilization long vanished carved into the soft limestone beneath the surface, a labyrinth that has confounded archaeologists for over a century. The Hypogeum of Ħal-Saflieni is not merely a cave, but a series of interlinked chambers and corridors meticulously hollowed from the earth, layered in 3 distinct levels, each descending further into subterranean shadow. Neolithic communities occupied the island in ways that left little trace above ground, yet beneath their dwellings they shaped stone with such care that the tunnels seem less like shelters and more like deliberate conduits for experience, both physical and perhaps spiritual. Even today, the echo of footsteps within these chambers carries the faint impression of voices long silenced, as though the space itself remembers the presence of those who first entered. Far beneath the familiar brightness of Mediterranean daylight, the architecture reveals a precision astonishing for a people working entirely with stone tools. Walls curve with subtle intention, doorways lead not just to rooms but into sequences of experience, and chambers open into one another with a sense of choreography rather than chaos. Some corridors narrow to force movement along particular lines, while others widen into circular galleries that could hold dozens of people, their purpose obscured by the passage of millennia. The chambers are ventilated through carefully positioned shafts, yet the reasoning behind these placements remains a mystery, inviting speculation that the design accommodated rituals, gatherings, or ceremonies that leverage the interplay of sound, air, and perception. Among the Hypogeum's most unsettling features is the so-called oracle chamber, a circular space in which the acoustic properties are extraordinary. A voice spoken at a certain pitch resonates throughout the chamber, amplified and sustained in a haunting, low-frequency hum around 110 Hz. Experiments have shown that this frequency corresponds to a vibration humans perceive as both physically and emotionally affecting, creating a sensation of deep resonance in the chest and skull. Whether this chamber was intentionally designed to manipulate sound for ritual, meditation, or communication remains unknown, yet the evidence of precise workmanship and consistent resonance suggests the builders had an intimate understanding of acoustics far beyond what might be expected from a Neolithic community. Across the deeper chambers where human remains once rested, the archaeological record reveals collective burials, some containing dozens of skeletons carefully positioned in niches carved from the stone. Radiocarbon dating places many of these interments between 4000 and 2500 BCE, linking them to the island's earliest temple-building cultures. The bones, often accompanied by small artifacts such as beads and animal remains, suggest deliberate placement and ritual practice rather than casual disposal. The selection, arrangement, and treatment of these remains continue to baffle researchers. Why were some individuals isolated, while others were layered in communal spaces? What guided these choices, and what beliefs underpinned such care in a world about which we know almost nothing? Upon the stone surfaces still bearing traces of red ochre and intricate spiral motifs, the Hypogeum hints at a symbolic language now lost to time. These markings, painted directly onto limestone walls, have survived the millennia in remarkable condition, though their exact purpose remains speculative. Spirals, circles, and linear designs could denote ceremonial pathways, celestial alignments, or markers for rituals known only to those who created them. Their placement within narrow corridors and large chambers alike emphasizes a continuity between architecture and decoration, implying that the entire subterranean environment functioned as an orchestrated space of meaning, a secret language written in stone and pigment that speaks only through mystery. With each measurement taken inside the carved limestone walls, it becomes clear that the construction required not only immense patience, but also a spatial intelligence that challenges modern assumptions about Neolithic engineering. The ceilings of some chambers rise in gentle curves, the floors slope subtly to guide movement or drainage, and some corridors incorporate small recesses whose function is unknown, but which may have aided in ceremonial or acoustic processes. Every element suggests that those who built the Hypogeum conceived it as a complete environment, designed to be experienced as a sequence of spaces, each shaping the perception, emotion, and perhaps even the consciousness of those who entered. During the earliest excavations led at the turn of the 20th century, archaeologists such as Manuel Magri and Sir Themistocles Zammit began uncovering layers of this subterranean world, yet much of their documentation has been lost or remains incomplete. Early reports describe passages cut with remarkable uniformity, chambers aligned with precision, and human remains arranged in patterns that puzzled even the most methodical investigators. Photographs and sketches reveal features that have since been disturbed or degraded, leaving gaps in the historical record that only amplify the Hypogeum's aura of secrecy. The tunnels themselves endure as a silent witness to the disappearance of both builders and the knowledge they embedded in stone. Within the many theories proposed by scholars and researchers, no single interpretation commands consensus. Some argue for a funerary complex, others for ritual performance spaces, and still others suggest that the Hypogeum functioned as a Neolithic observatory, using light and sound to mark cyclical events. Each explanation carries fragments of possibility, yet none can account for the full experience of moving through its dark, echoing halls, nor for the meticulous design choices that hint at a sophisticated understanding of human perception and sacred space. The Hypogeum remains a place where the boundaries of architectural skill, ritual behavior, and cultural memory converge in silence, leaving more questions than answers. Somewhere in the quiet between those ancient walls, a question still wanders without finding the voice that first sent it echoing. The Chavín de Huántar underground galleries, Peru, c. 1200 BCE. The Chavín people of the Northern Highlands shaped stone in ways that still resonate through time, crafting not only temples above ground, but also an intricate network of galleries and subterranean corridors beneath their ceremonial centre. These passages, constructed around 1200 BCE, are carved with remarkable precision from granite and volcanic rock, forming a labyrinth that seems to bridge the material and spiritual worlds. Scholars have long noted that the gallery's layout reflects the culture's religious emphasis on duality, transformation, and sensory experience, yet the exact purpose of these tunnels remains elusive. Even today, walking through them evokes the deliberate choreography of a ritual whose participants and meaning have vanished. Inside the network of stone passages, each turn seems calculated to disorient and guide simultaneously. Corridors twist and narrow, while some open abruptly into circular or rectangular chambers, producing a constant alternation between constriction and release. The galleries are often aligned beneath plazas and temples, suggesting a deliberate integration of the subterranean and surface structures. This careful planning implies that the Chavín builders intended the passageways to influence perception and movement, controlling how those who entered experienced space, light, and shadow. The labyrinthine quality, combined with limited lighting from small openings, leaves a lingering impression that the tunnels were as much a psychological instrument as a physical structure. Water runs through hidden conduits, carrying both sound and subtle force beneath the ceremonial plaza. The Chavín were masters of hydraulic engineering, channeling mountain streams through aqueducts and canals that thread beneath the galleries. These channels served practical purposes such as drainage and preventing collapse, but they also transformed the environment into a dynamic auditory space. The gentle rush of water echoes and resonates, filling chambers with an almost hypnotic ambience, suggesting the builders understood not only engineering but also the ways sound could heighten the intensity of a ceremonial experience. The galleries transform noise into a haunting, almost musical resonance, amplifying every movement into ritual sound. Small changes in corridor width and chamber shape create shifts in pitch and timbre, and the continuous flow of water enhances these effects. When voices or footsteps echo through the tunnels, they are distorted and multiplied, producing a sensation of dislocation and awe. This acoustic manipulation may have been an intentional aspect of Chavín ritual practice, allowing initiates to experience altered perception and a profound connection to the sacred spaces, though the precise methods and intentions remain a matter of speculation. Stone surfaces bear intricate figures, their meaning concealed yet deliberately placed along the path of passage. Carvings depict felines, serpents, and anthropomorphic beings, motifs central to Chavín cosmology. Many appear in chambers only accessible by narrow corridors, suggesting that their significance was reserved for participants in specific rites. The deliberate positioning implies symbolic guidance through the tunnels, a visual and spiritual map intertwined with the physical architecture. Yet the carving's precise interpretation has resisted modern understanding, leaving observers to wonder what messages or powers these hidden images were meant to convey. Every curve, slope, and opening suggests a journey designed to be experienced, not merely traversed. Some scholars propose that the tunnels facilitated initiation ceremonies, guiding participants through a sequence of sensory experiences that combined sound, light, and spatial orientation. Others suggest that the galleries may have been used for communication with spiritual realms, their acoustic and hydraulic properties amplifying ritual chants or instruments in ways that could alter perception. The alignment with plazas above ground hints at connections between celestial observation and subterranean practice, though the full extent of these relationships remains speculative. Excavators mapped fragments of the subterranean network, uncovering glimpses that hint at secrets still buried. Early 20th century explorers documented sections of the galleries, noting their complexity and the presence of carvings, water channels, and chambers whose purpose was unclear. Yet much of the system remains inaccessible due to collapse or erosion, leaving archaeologists with incomplete records. Even modern surveys and technological mapping have revealed only part of the labyrinth, suggesting that the Chavín left a deliberately challenging environment, perhaps intended to preserve its sacred mystery from casual observation. Despite decades of research, the full purpose of the galleries remains elusive, leaving only conjecture. Scholars debate the role of the tunnels in ceremonial life, their symbolic meaning, and the degree to which they under deserts, hills, and ancient cities stretch labyrinths carved by hands long vanished, tunnels that twist through stone with precision and purpose still beyond our full understanding. In this journey, we trace the silent corridors of civilizations from Persia to Peru, Turkey to Malta, where hidden passages, secret chambers, and subterranean galleries reveal not only the ingenuity of their builders, but also the rituals, beliefs, and mysteries they sought to preserve below the earth. As we uncover faint inscriptions, carefully aligned chambers, and enigmatic recesses in this video, each discovery hints at knowledge deliberately concealed and a world shaped as much inside the stone as on its surface. Step into these hidden networks, where every shadow and stone whispers secrets the centuries have not yet released. The Erdstall-type proto-tunnels of Iron Age Central Europe. Beneath stretches of forest and farmland that once formed the shifting borders of Iron Age Europe lies a network of tunnels so narrow, deliberate, and perplexing that archaeologists still struggle to place them in any familiar cultural or architectural tradition. These passages appear across regions once inhabited by Celtic and Proto-Celtic communities, scattered under Bavaria, Austria, Slovakia, and parts of southern Germany in patterns that seem both widespread and strangely uniform. Their builders left no inscriptions, no obvious markers of ownership, and no agreed-upon explanation for why so much labour and precision were poured into spaces so small that a person can only crawl through them with difficulty, as though the structures were meant for a type of movement or purpose that the surface world never required. What rises immediately from the earth during excavations is the distinctive signature of these so-called Erdstall tunnels, defined by smooth sandstone floors, compacted earthen ceilings, and an unmistakable feature known as the schlupf, a constricted opening that forces the body into a tight, almost ritualistic contortion. The consistent inclusion of these painfully narrow choke points across hundreds of sites suggests an intentional design, one not motivated by simple storage or shelter. Many tunnels contain no soot marks from torches, no domestic debris, and no signs of long-term habitation, leaving only the hollow echo of empty chambers that seem to exist for reasons no written tradition remembers. Some scholars consider them emergency hiding places built in a violent age, yet the restricted dimensions would have rendered any rapid escape nearly impossible, raising questions about why a people versed in practical survival would create a refuge so difficult to enter. Other sections reveal an orderly sense of construction that contradicts the idea of improvised hiding spaces. In certain regions, the tunnels align with no known settlement pattern, yet sit beneath former agricultural areas where Iron Age fields once thrived, prompting theories that they might have served seasonal or symbolic functions related to fertility rites or rites of passage. Artifacts found near a handful of entrances, broken pottery, stone beads, and fragments of animal bone suggest activity associated with ritualized spaces, not hastily assembled shelters. Yet the tunnels themselves offer almost nothing to clarify the intentions of their makers, as though the very purpose of these buried pathways was to remain sealed in silence. The most haunting dimension of the Erdstall system comes from the absence of structural evolution. Over centuries in which Iron Age communities changed pottery styles, burial customs, and settlement layouts, the construction of these tunnels remained remarkably stable. This repetition hints at a cultural memory strong enough to preserve a method, but fragile enough to lose the meaning behind it. Even Roman-era communities that later settled nearby made no written mention of the tunnels, despite their presence beneath fields the Romans surveyed and cultivated, implying that whatever knowledge the earlier inhabitants possessed was not passed forward. The tunnels belonged to a civilization that understood endurance in stone, but accepted oblivion in narrative, leaving archaeologists with a product of human minds whose thoughts have vanished completely. Modern studies show that many passages were cut with stone and iron tools consistent with Iron Age craftsmanship, yet certain curves and angles show a delicacy that seems out of place in a purely defensive or utilitarian structure. Smooth corridors turning through bedrock with subtle precision suggest that the builders respected the physical experience of moving underground in darkness, as though the tunnel was a controlled journey rather than a simple cavity. In some sites, air returns and subtly widening chambers appear at unexpected intervals, features that imply careful planning rather than accidental variation. These quiet refinements lend the impression that the tunnels were meant to shape perception, perhaps even to challenge it, creating an experience known only to those who entered by candlelight or in complete darkness. Theories have multiplied over decades of excavation. Some claim they were ritual spaces connected to beliefs about rebirth, with the narrow schlupf representing symbolic passage from one realm to another. Others believe they facilitated the concealed movement of valued items, perhaps tied to Celtic practices of safeguarding sacred or seasonal objects underground. A smaller group of scholars argues for a more metaphysical function, suggesting that the tunnels might have formed a controlled environment for trance-like experiences, guided by darkness, oxygen limitations, and physical restriction. Each proposal holds fragments of possibility, yet fails to explain their spread over hundreds of miles, or why no community claimed them in traditional folklore before the 19th century rediscoveries. Despite centuries of study, what remains most striking is the emotional effect of entering these tunnels today. With only a single dim light, the passages feel impossibly close, their silence dense and steady, as though the earth itself is withholding something. Dust settles in patterns undisturbed for centuries, and the weight of soil overhead feels heavier than in other confined spaces, perhaps because the tunnels were never meant to be open for casual exploration. Even experienced archaeologists note the uncanny sensation of crawling through them, reporting a persistent impression that the passages were designed for an audience that no longer exists. Nothing in these subterranean paths provides a definitive answer. No carving, no symbol, no mark of ownership, yet the careful engineering insists that their purpose must have mattered deeply to the people who built them. Centuries have passed since the last Iron Age community shaped these narrow corridors, but the tunnels hold their silence with undiminished intent, carrying the weight of a forgotten meaning that has resisted every attempt at interpretation. And in that silence, it becomes impossible not to wonder what moved beneath the earth before history learned to write. The Ħal-Saflieni Hypogeum tunnels of Malta, circa 4000 BCE. In the dim heart of Malta's oldest settlement traditions, a civilization long vanished carved into the soft limestone beneath the surface, a labyrinth that has confounded archaeologists for over a century. The Hypogeum of Ħal-Saflieni is not merely a cave, but a series of interlinked chambers and corridors meticulously hollowed from the earth, layered in 3 distinct levels, each descending further into subterranean shadow. Neolithic communities occupied the island in ways that left little trace above ground, yet beneath their dwellings they shaped stone with such care that the tunnels seem less like shelters and more like deliberate conduits for experience, both physical and perhaps spiritual. Even today, the echo of footsteps within these chambers carries the faint impression of voices long silenced, as though the space itself remembers the presence of those who first entered. Far beneath the familiar brightness of Mediterranean daylight, the architecture reveals a precision astonishing for a people working entirely with stone tools. Walls curve with subtle intention, doorways lead not just to rooms but into sequences of experience, and chambers open into one another with a sense of choreography rather than chaos. Some corridors narrow to force movement along particular lines, while others widen into circular galleries that could hold dozens of people, their purpose obscured by the passage of millennia. The chambers are ventilated through carefully positioned shafts, yet the reasoning behind these placements remains a mystery, inviting speculation that the design accommodated rituals, gatherings, or ceremonies that leverage the interplay of sound, air, and perception. Among the Hypogeum's most unsettling features is the so-called oracle chamber, a circular space in which the acoustic properties are extraordinary. A voice spoken at a certain pitch resonates throughout the chamber, amplified and sustained in a haunting, low-frequency hum around 110 Hz. Experiments have shown that this frequency corresponds to a vibration humans perceive as both physically and emotionally affecting, creating a sensation of deep resonance in the chest and skull. Whether this chamber was intentionally designed to manipulate sound for ritual, meditation, or communication remains unknown, yet the evidence of precise workmanship and consistent resonance suggests the builders had an intimate understanding of acoustics far beyond what might be expected from a Neolithic community. Across the deeper chambers where human remains once rested, the archaeological record reveals collective burials, some containing dozens of skeletons carefully positioned in niches carved from the stone. Radiocarbon dating places many of these interments between 4000 and 2500 BCE, linking them to the island's earliest temple-building cultures. The bones, often accompanied by small artifacts such as beads and animal remains, suggest deliberate placement and ritual practice rather than casual disposal. The selection, arrangement, and treatment of these remains continue to baffle researchers. Why were some individuals isolated, while others were layered in communal spaces? What guided these choices, and what beliefs underpinned such care in a world about which we know almost nothing? Upon the stone surfaces still bearing traces of red ochre and intricate spiral motifs, the Hypogeum hints at a symbolic language now lost to time. These markings, painted directly onto limestone walls, have survived the millennia in remarkable condition, though their exact purpose remains speculative. Spirals, circles, and linear designs could denote ceremonial pathways, celestial alignments, or markers for rituals known only to those who created them. Their placement within narrow corridors and large chambers alike emphasizes a continuity between architecture and decoration, implying that the entire subterranean environment functioned as an orchestrated space of meaning, a secret language written in stone and pigment that speaks only through mystery. With each measurement taken inside the carved limestone walls, it becomes clear that the construction required not only immense patience, but also a spatial intelligence that challenges modern assumptions about Neolithic engineering. The ceilings of some chambers rise in gentle curves, the floors slope subtly to guide movement or drainage, and some corridors incorporate small recesses whose function is unknown, but which may have aided in ceremonial or acoustic processes. Every element suggests that those who built the Hypogeum conceived it as a complete environment, designed to be experienced as a sequence of spaces, each shaping the perception, emotion, and perhaps even the consciousness of those who entered. During the earliest excavations led at the turn of the 20th century, archaeologists such as Manuel Magri and Sir Themistocles Zammit began uncovering layers of this subterranean world, yet much of their documentation has been lost or remains incomplete. Early reports describe passages cut with remarkable uniformity, chambers aligned with precision, and human remains arranged in patterns that puzzled even the most methodical investigators. Photographs and sketches reveal features that have since been disturbed or degraded, leaving gaps in the historical record that only amplify the Hypogeum's aura of secrecy. The tunnels themselves endure as a silent witness to the disappearance of both builders and the knowledge they embedded in stone. Within the many theories proposed by scholars and researchers, no single interpretation commands consensus. Some argue for a funerary complex, others for ritual performance spaces, and still others suggest that the Hypogeum functioned as a Neolithic observatory, using light and sound to mark cyclical events. Each explanation carries fragments of possibility, yet none can account for the full experience of moving through its dark, echoing halls, nor for the meticulous design choices that hint at a sophisticated understanding of human perception and sacred space. The Hypogeum remains a place where the boundaries of architectural skill, ritual behavior, and cultural memory converge in silence, leaving more questions than answers. Somewhere in the quiet between those ancient walls, a question still wanders without finding the voice that first sent it echoing. The Chavín de Huántar underground galleries, Peru, c. 1200 BCE. The Chavín people of the Northern Highlands shaped stone in ways that still resonate through time, crafting not only temples above ground, but also an intricate network of galleries and subterranean corridors beneath their ceremonial centre. These passages, constructed around 1200 BCE, are carved with remarkable precision from granite and volcanic rock, forming a labyrinth that seems to bridge the material and spiritual worlds. Scholars have long noted that the gallery's layout reflects the culture's religious emphasis on duality, transformation, and sensory experience, yet the exact purpose of these tunnels remains elusive. Even today, walking through them evokes the deliberate choreography of a ritual whose participants and meaning have vanished. Inside the network of stone passages, each turn seems calculated to disorient and guide simultaneously. Corridors twist and narrow, while some open abruptly into circular or rectangular chambers, producing a constant alternation between constriction and release. The galleries are often aligned beneath plazas and temples, suggesting a deliberate integration of the subterranean and surface structures. This careful planning implies that the Chavín builders intended the passageways to influence perception and movement, controlling how those who entered experienced space, light, and shadow. The labyrinthine quality, combined with limited lighting from small openings, leaves a lingering impression that the tunnels were as much a psychological instrument as a physical structure. Water runs through hidden conduits, carrying both sound and subtle force beneath the ceremonial plaza. The Chavín were masters of hydraulic engineering, channeling mountain streams through aqueducts and canals that thread beneath the galleries. These channels served practical purposes such as drainage and preventing collapse, but they also transformed the environment into a dynamic auditory space. The gentle rush of water echoes and resonates, filling chambers with an almost hypnotic ambience, suggesting the builders understood not only engineering but also the ways sound could heighten the intensity of a ceremonial experience. The galleries transform noise into a haunting, almost musical resonance, amplifying every movement into ritual sound. Small changes in corridor width and chamber shape create shifts in pitch and timbre, and the continuous flow of water enhances these effects. When voices or footsteps echo through the tunnels, they are distorted and multiplied, producing a sensation of dislocation and awe. This acoustic manipulation may have been an intentional aspect of Chavín ritual practice, allowing initiates to experience altered perception and a profound connection to the sacred spaces, though the precise methods and intentions remain a matter of speculation. Stone surfaces bear intricate figures, their meaning concealed yet deliberately placed along the path of passage. Carvings depict felines, serpents, and anthropomorphic beings, motifs central to Chavín cosmology. Many appear in chambers only accessible by narrow corridors, suggesting that their significance was reserved for participants in specific rites. The deliberate positioning implies symbolic guidance through the tunnels, a visual and spiritual map intertwined with the physical architecture. Yet the carving's precise interpretation has resisted modern understanding, leaving observers to wonder what messages or powers these hidden images were meant to convey. Every curve, slope, and opening suggests a journey designed to be experienced, not merely traversed. Some scholars propose that the tunnels facilitated initiation ceremonies, guiding participants through a sequence of sensory experiences that combined sound, light, and spatial orientation. Others suggest that the galleries may have been used for communication with spiritual realms, their acoustic and hydraulic properties amplifying ritual chants or instruments in ways that could alter perception. The alignment with plazas above ground hints at connections between celestial observation and subterranean practice, though the full extent of these relationships remains speculative. Excavators mapped fragments of the subterranean network, uncovering glimpses that hint at secrets still buried. Early 20th century explorers documented sections of the galleries, noting their complexity and the presence of carvings, water channels, and chambers whose purpose was unclear. Yet much of the system remains inaccessible due to collapse or erosion, leaving archaeologists with incomplete records. Even modern surveys and technological mapping have revealed only part of the labyrinth, suggesting that the Chavín left a deliberately challenging environment, perhaps intended to preserve its sacred mystery from casual observation. Despite decades of research, the full purpose of the galleries remains elusive, leaving only conjecture. Scholars debate the role of the tunnels in ceremonial life, their symbolic meaning, and the degree to which their design was intended to manipulate sensory perception. Acoustic phenomena, hidden carvings, and hydraulic ingenuity combine to create an experience unlike any other in pre-Columbian architecture. Every uncovered detail amplifies the sense of intentional design. Yet, the absence of contemporary records ensures that much of the Chavín's intention remains locked within the stone and running water of these subterranean spaces. Deep within the stone and flowing water, a hidden ritual pulse waits, unheard by all who have not yet learned its secret. The Derinkuyu Proto-Anatolian tunnels, Turkey, early phases pre-Hittite. Darkness swallows the descending stairways, where footsteps stir the still air and stone walls close in like a secret kept for centuries. Carved long ago by Proto-Anatolian communities that predated the Hittites, these corridors were designed to shelter, conceal, and endure, reflecting an ingenuity now lost to time. Narrow passageways wind unpredictably, forcing careful movement, and each turn reveals the ambition of the hands that shape these depths. Shadows cling to corners, and the faint echo of dripping water hints at life persisting far below ground in ways that defy immediate comprehension. To enter is to be enveloped by a subterranean world that whispers of strategy, survival, and secrets deliberately hidden from the surface. Spiraling shafts connect successive levels, each carved with precision to guide movement while concealing its full extent. Some descend 20 meters or more, linking rooms and passageways across multiple stories. The verticality of the tunnels amplifies their disorienting effect, forcing travelers to focus on their own motion, aware that each step may lead to safety or sudden obstruction. Narrow staircases and angled ramps suggest a design intended to slow progress, perhaps to protect inhabitants from intruders or to channel movement during periods of refuge. The architecture blends practical necessity with subtle control, demonstrating a level of foresight and engineering sophistication that continues to surprise modern scholars. Massive rolling stones guard narrow corridors, their weight a silent testament to careful planning and hidden knowledge. Positioned strategically at entrances to chambers and intersections of hallways, these doors could be moved by small teams, yet were formidable obstacles to anyone unfamiliar with their purpose. Some are circular, carefully balanced, and embedded into slots that allow them to pivot silently, sealing off rooms almost completely. The presence of such mechanisms suggests that security, secrecy, or controlled access was a priority from the earliest phases of construction. Yet the precise scenarios that required these defences remain speculative, leaving the tunnel's original function partially shrouded in mystery. Slender ventilation channels pierce the rock, carrying air and whispers through the depths where light seldom reaches. Openings carefully placed at varying heights create a subtle flow that sustains multiple levels simultaneously, ensuring breathable conditions even in the deepest chambers. Some shafts also serve as conduits for indirect light, casting dim illumination that reveals rough-hewn walls while leaving corners in shadow. The combination of air, light, and careful spatial design points to an advanced understanding of subterranean living, executed by hands now lost to time. The ingenuity of this system implies that those who built the tunnels envisioned extended periods of habitation, prepared for the long and unseen duration of underground life. Chambers carved into the stone reveal signs of prolonged habitation, with niches for food, tools, and even animals. Rounded rooms suggest communal spaces, while smaller recesses indicate storage or sleeping quarters. Archaeologists have identified spaces that could accommodate livestock, reinforcing the notion that the tunnels were designed to support sizable populations for extended periods. Traces of pottery, grinding stones, and simple hearths hint at daily routines occurring far below the surface, where silence and shadow governed life. The functional integration of domestic, defensive, and strategic features highlights a sophisticated adaptation to subterranean existence, one that demands both respect and careful navigation. Proto-Anatolian hands shaped the tunnels, predating the Hittite era and leaving traces of a culture adept at survival and secrecy. Radiocarbon dating and ceramic evidence suggest construction occurred during the early 2nd millennium BCE, yet the society responsible left no written record explaining its motives or organisation. These tunnels, therefore, are a window into ingenuity and human adaptability, revealing methods of protection, communal living, and resource management that are remarkable for their age. The scale and coherence of the network indicate deliberate planning, a mastery of rock and spatial awareness that implies social structures capable of coordinating complex engineering projects. Excavations have uncovered only fragments of the sprawling complex, while collapsed passages and hidden rooms elude even the most meticulous surveys. Modern mapping and archaeology have revealed sections extending over dozens of meters, yet many chambers remain inaccessible, buried by time or intentionally sealed. Reports describe parallel galleries that continue beyond excavated areas, suggesting the underground city may have accommodated hundreds, perhaps thousands of individuals in ways still impossible to fully reconstruct. Each mapped section evokes further questions about population, movement, and purpose, leaving an incomplete yet compelling picture of subterranean life. Scholars continue to debate the tunnel's purpose, yet every level reinforces the mystery of the people who moved unseen beneath the land. Some suggest temporary refuge from conflict or natural disaster, others propose religious or ritualistic undertones, though no definitive evidence confirms either. The combination of sophisticated design, scale, and strategic concealment implies careful foresight, yet what the builders hoped to achieve beyond survival remains unanswered. Every corner, shaft, and chamber hints at stories lost to history, lingering like shadows cast by torches long extinguished. Within the silent chambers and winding shafts, the lives of those who vanished into stone remain etched only in shadow and echo. The Longyou subterranean caverns, China, see 2,000 plus years old. Immense underground chambers rise, their ceilings soaring high enough to swallow echoes whole, carved over 2,000 years ago by builders of early Chinese states, long before the Qin dynasty recorded their histories. Stepping into the first hall, one is struck by the immensity of the space, its stone walls smooth and precise, yet utterly silent. Light filters only from narrow openings or reflected surfaces, revealing a labyrinth of rectangular rooms that seem to extend far beyond what the eye can measure. The scale overwhelms perception, and the mind strains to imagine the effort required to excavate such enormous halls using tools lost to history. Despite centuries of silence, the caverns radiate an intentionality that suggests planning, skill, and a purpose now erased. Stone pillars rise in precise grids, supporting halls so vast that footsteps are lost in the emptiness between them. Each pillar, cut with remarkable uniformity, bears the weight of ceilings spanning tens of meters, their surfaces smooth and angular. The arrangement of columns creates corridors, galleries, and chambers whose regularity seems at odds with the natural rock from which they were hewn. The precision implies a knowledge of geometry and engineering that astonishes visitors, leaving questions about measurement, coordination, and labour unanswered. Walking among these monoliths, the scale of human ambition becomes almost tangible, though the civilization responsible remains largely anonymous. Every surface bears marks that defy known techniques, the smooth stone whispering of tools and hands that remain a mystery. Parallel grooves, faint chiselling patterns, and angular cuttings hint at deliberate workmanship, yet no historical record identifies the methods or instruments used. The lack of documentation has fueled speculation. Were these halls hewn with simple chisels over decades, or did they employ techniques now forgotten? The absence of evidence for scaffolding or lifting mechanisms deepens the enigma, leaving the sheer magnitude of the endeavour suspended between awe and incredulity. Even small scratches on the walls seem purposeful, a silent signature of a workforce and knowledge erased from memory. Water gathers in hidden depressions, reflecting dim light and amplifying the silence with trickles and distant drips. Shallow pools mirror the columns and ceilings, giving the illusion of a second submerged architecture beneath the visible one. The sound of water echoes through the halls, magnifying the cavernous scale and heightening the sense of isolation. These damp recesses may have been intentional, perhaps for ritual, acoustic, or practical purposes, though no theory has been confirmed. In the stillness, droplets strike stone surfaces in irregular patterns, a faint percussion that resonates like a distant heartbeat of the past. Some suggest these caverns stored grain, others that they were places of ritual, yet no evidence confirms any single purpose. The uniformity of the halls and the careful planning hint at deliberate organisation, while the lack of associated artefacts frustrates attempts at interpretation. Scholars have proposed everything from military storage to secret government archives of early Chinese states, yet none of these ideas can account for the scale and precision alone. Each theory illuminates certain possibilities while leaving others unexplained, and the truth of the builder's intent remains locked in the stone. Discovered only in the 1990s by astonished locals, the Longyou caverns have since been mapped in fragments, each survey revealing staggering dimensions. Teams measured chambers reaching lengths of over 30 metres, widths of 20 and ceilings soaring more than 10 metres, all carved from solid siltstone. The caverns' spatial regularity is unlike any natural formation, reinforcing their artificial origin. Yet despite partial excavations and detailed studies, most halls remain inaccessible, buried under debris or water, and the full extent of the network is unknown. Each new measurement raises further questions about labour, tools, and the number of individuals involved. Unlike any other Chinese subterranean site, these halls seem deliberately erased from history, leaving only stone to testify to their creation. Ancient texts make no mention of them, and legends remain vague, offering only whispers of lost cities beneath the earth. Even contemporary historians struggle to situate the caverns within a known historical framework, and the absence of inscriptions or cultural markers keeps their origin in the realm of speculation. The Longyou caverns appear simultaneously monumental and anonymous, a ghostly testament to human effort unrecorded and unremembered. Visitors often leave with the sense that human labour alone cannot explain the precision, scale, and quiet majesty of these spaces. Walking among pillars taller than a man, through halls so vast they swallow sound, one experiences both reverence and unease. The meticulous order of the chambers, the smoothness of stone, and the echoing emptiness combine to create a profound impression of a vanished purpose, a monumental project that has outlasted its builders in silence. Each step through the caverns carries a reminder of human skill, ambition, and the enduring mystery of what was intended in these vast subterranean halls. Nestled under Zhejiang's rolling hills, the silent caverns wait, their purpose locked in stone and shadow, defying the curiosity of every generation. The Teotihuacan underworld tunnel beneath the Pyramid of the Feathered Serpent, Mexico. A narrow descent carries explorers beneath the Pyramid of the Feathered Serpent, where darkness conceals chambers carved by the builders of Teotihuacan over 18 centuries ago. The air is cool and heavy, faintly damp, and the faint echo of footsteps stretches unnervingly through the stone corridors. From the first step, it is clear that this is not merely a utilitarian tunnel, but a deliberate, sacred space hidden beneath one of the city's most powerful ceremonial centres. Though light is minimal, shadows cast by rough-hewn walls and low ceilings create a sense of liminality, as if the earth itself were holding secrets meant only for those who dare to descend. The Teotihuacan civilization, at the height of its influence, orchestrated not only monumental pyramids above ground, but also intricate subterranean spaces whose purpose remains only partially understood. Stone walls rise in careful alignment, revealing hidden passageways and chambers that mirror the cosmic order revered above ground. Narrow halls open into small rooms, some barely wide enough to kneel, others spacious enough to accommodate multiple figures. The architecture suggests symbolic intent. The tunnels appear to trace a ritual path, perhaps reflecting the city's cosmology or emulating a journey to the underworld. Ceilings are low in some areas, forcing visitors to bow, while in others, chambers expand unexpectedly, creating a rhythm of confinement and release that might have guided ceremonial movement. Every step seems calculated to instill awe, humility, or anticipation, even for those who enter without knowledge of ancient ritual practice. Within the earth, archaeologists uncovered skeletal remains and offerings that hint at ceremonies whose full meaning has been lost to history. Bones, carefully placed, lie alongside pottery fragments, obsidian blades, and other ritual items. Some chambers appear to have been used repeatedly over decades, evidenced by multiple layers of deposits, while others seem prepared for single significant ceremonies. The arrangement of these artifacts is precise yet enigmatic, leaving open questions about who participated, the sequence of rituals, and the symbolic weight of each object. Every find adds to the tunnel's aura of sanctity and the sense that these spaces were portals to a sacred dimension. Faded pigments cling to carved stone, depicting serpents, deities, and geometric symbols, whose intent is partially understood yet fully enigmatic. Reds, yellows, and ochres, still faintly visible after centuries underground, suggest that colour played a critical role in ritual or narrative. The motifs reflect Teotihuacan's artistic conventions above ground, linking the subterranean world to the cosmological imagery of temples and plazas. Though much of the paint has been lost to time, the fragments that remain hint at a ceremonial sophistication that extended into the hidden depths, reinforcing the tunnel's function as more than simple corridors. Some scholars propose that the tunnel served as a ritual underworld, a place of initiation, sacrifice, or spiritual passage, though definitive proof eludes every theory. The presence of human remains and symbolic artifacts suggests a ceremonial dimension, yet the exact purpose remains speculative. Did these chambers host transformative rites for select individuals, or were they conduits for offerings to the gods? Perhaps they marked a symbolic axis connecting the earthly city to metaphysical realms. Each theory illuminates certain aspects but leaves the larger mystery intact, preserving the sense that the tunnels were intentionally veiled from the ordinary eye. Discovered in the late 20th century, the corridor has been carefully mapped and preserved, its fragile ceilings reminding visitors of centuries of concealment. Excavators employed painstaking methods to avoid collapse or damage, revealing interconnected chambers, short passageways, and narrow shafts that previously eluded detection. Even with modern technology, many sections remain inaccessible, partially buried, or structurally unstable. The excavation process itself deepens the sense of discovery, offering glimpses into a hidden world that lay dormant beneath a city already famed for its monumental architecture. Beneath the pyramid, the subterranean layout echoes the urban grid of Teotihuacan above, suggesting symbolic continuity between city and sacred underworld. Alignments mirror streets, plazas, and temple axes, reinforcing the civilization's emphasis on cosmic order. The tunnel's concealed nature contrasts with the open grandeur of the city above, creating a dichotomy between visibility and secrecy, public and sacred, life and death. This interplay imbues the underworld passage with an authority that commands respect and contemplation, offering insight into the Teotihuacan worldview, even as it keeps its deepest secrets. Those who enter emerge with a sense of reverence and unease, aware that the tunnels hold traces of devotion and human ingenuity now veiled by time. The combination of darkness, echo, symbolic artifacts, and structural complexity conveys both mastery and mystery, leaving a lasting impression that is difficult to articulate. Visitors sense a deliberate orchestration of space, sound, and symbol, a careful shaping of experience that transcends the purely physical. The underworld beneath the pyramid of the feathered serpent is at once a relic of human creativity and a threshold to a vanished belief system, quietly asserting its presence beneath the modern city. Bathed in the shade of the feathered serpent, the corridor stretches silently, a threshold to rituals and secrets that even time has hesitated to reveal. The Nabatean hidden water tunnels of Petra, Jordan. Amid Petra's rose-red cliffs, facades carved into rock hint at a civilization whose mastery of water remains as astonishing as it is invisible, the Nabateans leaving behind hidden channels that have guided life through the desert for over 2 millennia. From the city's sunlit streets, one would never suspect the intricate network of subterranean passages lying beneath. Yet these concealed arteries were essential for survival in the arid landscape. The cliffs themselves bear subtle signs of engineering, small inlets, carved ledges, and shadowed recesses that suggest the presence of unseen corridors. Even today, the rock exhales a sense of secrecy, as though it guards the ingenuity of a people who transformed scarcity into abundance. Behind the carved facades, concealed tunnels and cisterns snake through sandstone, directing precious water away from view yet directly into the city's heart. Steps carved into narrow corridors guide the flow, while hidden chambers store reserves for drought or ceremony. The design suggests a dual purpose: to sustain daily life and to protect water from potential threats. Some passages remain obscured, hidden within fissures or blocked by centuries of debris, leaving explorers and archaeologists uncertain of their full extent. The labyrinthine network conveys a deliberate obscurity, a deliberate shaping of access that blends functionality with secrecy. Ingenious gradients and sediment traps reveal a precision in engineering that allowed the Nabateans to collect, store, and distribute water in one of the harshest landscapes on Earth. Channels carved with exact slopes directed rainfall and spring water into cisterns, while sediment traps prevented silt from clogging the system. Narrow conduits ensure even the smallest trickle reaches its destination without loss. The meticulous attention to hydraulic detail speaks to an advanced understanding, achieved long before modern tools could measure such precision. Every channel, cut into living rock, is evidence of human foresight adapting to extreme conditions. Modern excavations have revealed hidden chambers, blocked passages, and narrow corridors that speak to the meticulous planning of a civilization attuned to both environment and survival. Archaeologists mapping the tunnels often find walls smooth with ancient tools, sometimes polished by centuries of water flowing over them. Fragments of pottery and inscriptions occasionally appear, hinting at ritual use or perhaps the marking of ownership or capacity. Yet much of the network remains unexplored, leaving unanswered questions about its complete scale and the techniques used to maintain it across generations. These water systems were essential not only for daily life but also for public rituals, urban development, and the very sustenance of Petra's population in the desert. The city thrived where others would wither, in large part due to the hidden arteries that delivered life-giving water to houses, plazas, and sacred spaces. The tunnels enabled gardens, baths, and fountains, symbols of comfort and civic pride amid a harsh environment. At the same time, the concealment of these channels reinforced social hierarchy, ensuring control over the most vital resource by those who understood its secret paths. Winding unpredictably, some corridors end in false channels, hinting at strategic design to protect water sources from theft or to control access during times of scarcity. Certain passages are deliberately narrow, forcing movement in a single file, while others widen into hidden chambers where overflow could be temporarily stored. These subtle variations suggest that the Nabateans anticipated both natural and human challenges, crafting spaces that were as much defensive as functional. The clever interplay of open conduits and dead ends leaves modern visitors with a sense of stealthy precision, as if the tunnels themselves were guardians of survival. The tunnel's integration with cliffs, courtyards, and monumental facades demonstrates a seamless marriage of natural landscape and human ingenuity. Walkways and channels follow rock formations, merging with carved facades above, making much of the network invisible to casual observers. Steps and ramps emerge in courtyards, fountains, and plazas, revealing only glimpses of the hidden system. This harmonization of function and form allowed the Nabateans to sustain urban life in a region that offers few natural advantages, reinforcing the impression that every stone was placed with purpose, every channel cut with intention. Walking along the traces of these hidden channels, one senses the careful orchestration of rock and water, a silent testament to Nabatean skill and foresight. The quiet sound of dripping water echoes in shadowed corridors, amplifying the impression of centuries-old secrecy. Light from above illuminates occasional inlets or cisterns, but much remains in darkness, preserved from time and human interference. Visitors cannot help but feel the ingenuity and planning required to maintain a city in the desert, while also sensing that some aspects of the network, and the reasoning behind them, will never be fully understood. Tucked inside Petra's rose-red cliffs, the silent channels twist and descend, carrying secrets of water, survival, and ingenuity that remain almost as hidden today as they were 2 millennia ago. The Cappadocian pre-Hittite subsurface corridors, Turkey. The stone walls close in silently, each narrow corridor a deliberate confinement that hints at the care and foresight of the pre-Hittite builders of Cappadocia, whose hands shaped these passages long before memory could record them. Walking through the labyrinth, the air grows cooler, and the echo of footsteps stretches unnervingly, as though the corridors themselves hold centuries of whispered history. From the moment one steps inside, the scale of human ingenuity becomes apparent. Tunnels carved into soft volcanic tuff, branching unpredictably, yet meticulously aligned to maintain both stability and secrecy. It is here, in this subterranean network, that the pre-Hittite civilization demonstrated a mastery of stone and space that has endured, silently resisting time and erosion. Passages branch unpredictably, some barely wide enough to pass, while others open into hidden chambers that suggest a carefully orchestrated subterranean life. Stairways and ramps connect levels, often with abrupt changes in direction that create a sense of disorientation. Ventilation shafts pierce ceilings at intervals, allowing air to circulate, while narrow corridors occasionally widen into communal rooms whose walls retain subtle traces of tools used in their creation. The spatial design conveys more than mere refuge. It implies foresight, an understanding of how human activity would interact with carved stone over generations, balancing accessibility with concealment. Sharp turns and constricted hallways hint at a defensive purpose, creating natural choke points that would have deterred unwelcome intruders. Some corridors are angled in ways that restrict movement, forcing anyone passing through to slow their pace and navigate carefully. Other sections lead into blind alleys or chambers with multiple exit points, a strategy that could confuse potential threats or control access within the underground complex. This sense of tactical planning demonstrates that the corridors were not haphazard, but carefully designed to provide protection as well as secrecy. Traces of hearths, scattered pottery shards, and carved storage niches reveal that these corridors were more than mere escape routes. They were spaces of daily existence. Evidence suggests that families or small communities may have lived within the tunnels for extended periods, relying on cleverly hidden ventilation and storage solutions. Small depressions in the floors, possibly for water or grain, and the occasional stone bench hint at routines carried out far from sunlight. Even the narrowest passages display a careful balance between functionality and habitability, allowing movement while maintaining structural integrity. Even in the narrowest corridors, the pre-Hittites manipulated temperature and airflow to preserve food and other perishables, turning the underground labyrinth into a network of natural storage chambers. Subterranean niches maintained a stable, cool environment year-round, ideal for grains, dried fruits, and possibly fermented goods. Archaeological analysis has revealed traces of residue in some carved depressions, suggesting the storage of olive oil or wine, while small pits may have held water or other liquids. The design of these chambers indicates an understanding of passive climate control. Air circulating through ventilation shafts could prevent mould, while the soft tough rock insulated stored materials from extreme heat or cold. This clever use of underground space not only supported long-term habitation, but also allowed the pre-Hittites to stockpile provisions during periods of scarcity, hinting at sophisticated planning and foresight rarely attributed to societies of this era. In quieter chambers, subtle carvings and isolated alcoves suggest ritual significance, though the meaning of these features is veiled in time. A carved symbol here, a niche there, points to practices that cannot be fully interpreted, leaving modern visitors to wonder whether these spaces were intended for spiritual purposes, rites of passage, or perhaps an unknown form of governance. The deliberate placement of such features within otherwise utilitarian corridors emphasizes that even in secrecy, human culture and symbolism found a place underground, bridging the practical and the sacred. Modern archaeologists contending with fragile volcanic tuff and collapsed sections have mapped only a fraction of the subterranean labyrinth, leaving many passages unexplored. Each excavation uncovers more surprises: hidden chambers, stairways descending into darkness, and corridors that disappear beneath rubble. Despite technological advances, the tunnels resist complete understanding, their full scale and intricacy remaining elusive. Even careful mapping and 3D modelling can only approximate the complexity the pre-Hittite builders achieved, reminding us that some aspects of the past remain deliberately opaque. Entrances emerge discreetly within the terrain, often camouflaged in slopes or cliff faces, integrating the underground world seamlessly with surface settlements. From above, one might pass these hidden doors without notice, unaware of the refuge, storage, or living quarters that lie beneath. The alignment of these openings demonstrates an intimate knowledge of the surrounding environment, exploiting natural contours for protection and concealment while allowing strategic access. In this way, the corridors were an extension of the landscape, yet their presence remained largely invisible to outsiders. Every corridor, every chamber speaks of careful design and deliberate intent, yet the full story of who lived here and why remains hidden beneath layers of history. The tunnels convey a duality of function: practical for survival, sophisticated in engineering, and mysterious in purpose. The ingenuity of the pre-Hittite builders is evident in every turn and chamber, yet questions linger, unanswered across millennia. To walk through these spaces is to encounter a civilization that vanished yet left an indelible imprint in stone, a network whose meaning is only partially understood, inviting speculation and wonder with each step. What the builders intended with the deepest chambers and what secrets they carried through twisting corridors remains a puzzle that time has never surrendered. The Saqqara Serapeum Access Tunnels, Egypt. The weight of granite presses silently around each corridor, a testament to the ancient Egyptians' mastery of stone and the sacred purpose that shaped every joint and angle of the Serapeum's tunnels. From the moment one steps into these subterranean passageways, the air feels dense with both history and ritual intent, as if the very walls remember the footsteps of priests and attendants who guided the sacred Apis bulls to their eternal resting places. The corridor's precision, carved into limestone bedrock with painstaking care, reveals an engineering skill intertwined with devotion, where every measured joint and angled block reflects both utility and reverence. Corridors stretch downward in careful precision, their narrow entrances widening occasionally into chambers whose angles suggest both functionality and ritual intent. The tunnels form a complex network beneath the necropolis of Saqqara, designed to accommodate both movement and ceremony. Ventilation shafts punctuate the ceilings, subtly controlling airflow and temperature, while smooth, worn floors indicate centuries of procession. These architectural choices demonstrate not only technical knowledge, but also an acute awareness of ceremonial procession, as every chamber and turn facilitated a journey imbued with sacred significance. Light and shadow were orchestrated with deliberate care, hinting that the Serapeum's tunnels were aligned to celestial rhythms as much as to sacred rituals. Scholars have suggested that the orientation of certain corridors corresponds to the rising and setting of specific stars or solar events, illuminating particular chambers at times of religious significance. Sunlight or reflected light may have penetrated shafts during key festivals, marking sacred moments when the Apis bulls were honoured or when priests performed ritual ceremonies. This subtle integration of astronomy with underground architecture underscores the Egyptians' profound understanding of the cosmos and its relationship to ritual, suggesting that the tunnels were more than functional. They were a conduit between Earth and the heavens, designed to synchronize the sacred with the celestial. Every step along these passageways was a journey into sanctity, the tunnels themselves guiding priests and attendants toward the resting places of the Apis bulls. The sacred animals were revered as earthly manifestations of Ptah, and their burials were meticulously planned to honor that divinity. The tunnels, hidden from the view of the general populace, created a controlled and reverential environment where ritual, symbolism, and protection converged. The path from the entrance to the chamber was more than functional. It was a passage in which every element of design reinforced the spiritual importance of the bull and the ceremony surrounding it. Enormous sarcophagi carved from single blocks of granite sit in chambers whose construction continues to baffle scholars, their placement demanding ingenuity beyond ordinary engineering. Each coffin weighs tens of tons, yet the corridors allowed precise movement and final positioning. The tight angles, carefully smoothed walls, and subtle ramps suggest methods of leverage and sliding that remain debated. The sheer scale of these constructions, combined with their hidden nature, underscores the Egyptians' extraordinary capacity for both physical labour and coordinated planning, preserving sacred rituals in stone for millennia. Some corridors remain blocked or partially unexplored, their shadows hinting at hidden chambers whose secrets may never be fully revealed. Rubble, intentional sealing, or collapse has left areas inaccessible, fostering speculation about undiscovered sarcophagi or ritual spaces. These hidden sections intensify the aura of secrecy, suggesting that some knowledge was reserved for a select few. Even in fully excavated areas, the sheer precision of placement and the alignment of passageways imply information and techniques lost to time, a subtle reminder of how much remains beyond contemporary understanding. Archaeologists have uncovered inscriptions, pottery fragments, and remnants of ceremonial tools, yet each discovery raises as many questions as it answers about the tunnel's original purpose. Hieroglyphs hint at dates, religious formulas, or the names of high priests, but their full context often eludes modern interpretation. Small fragments of furniture or ritual implements indicate ceremonial activity within the subterranean chambers. Every artifact, however mundane it might seem, contributes to a sense of mystery. The Egyptians left deliberate traces while keeping the full ritual experience veiled, an interplay of revelation and concealment that persists today. Entrances to the subterranean passages are subtly integrated with the necropolis above, designed to conceal the sacred movement of priests and bulls from casual observers. The portals are often unassuming, masked by walls or terraces, with no external markers to indicate the enormity and sanctity of what lies below. Their placement demonstrates a careful understanding of both landscape and social context. Access was tightly controlled, visible only to those authorized, reinforcing the secrecy and sacredness of the Serapeum's rituals. The precision of every cut, the alignment of every block, conveys a civilization's devotion to ritual, control and secrecy, leaving an indelible impression on all who navigate the shadowed halls. These tunnels speak simultaneously of human ingenuity, devotion to spiritual ideals, and the impermanence of human knowledge. Even when walking in silence, one can sense the calculated intent embedded in every angle, every chamber and every stone. The Serapeum's access tunnels preserve the memory of ceremonies long vanished, a network whose full story remains tantalizingly incomplete. Even after centuries of study, the full intentions of those who carved the Serapeum's tunnels and guided the sacred bulls to their resting places remain an enigma etched in stone. The Teos cave modifications by ancient Ecuadorian cultures. The echo of dripping water fills every chamber, a constant reminder that the Teos cave existed long before human hands shaped its corridors, yet bears unmistakable traces of ancient intervention by Ecuadorian cultures. Shadows stretch across rough walls, interrupted by areas of polished stone or carefully carved niches that betray deliberate modification. Anthropologists and local Shua traditions hint at the possibility that pre-Columbian groups explored these depths, not merely for shelter, but for ceremonial or sacred purposes, leaving subtle marks on the natural labyrinth. The cave's combination of natural enormity and human alteration evokes both awe and unease, suggesting that these passages were more than simple geological formations. They were spaces of intent and mystery. Carved steps lead into chambers that seem almost deliberately arranged, each niche and passage suggesting both utility and symbolic intent within the natural stone. Some corridors narrow into constricted tunnels, forcing movement to a single file, while others open into wider halls where ritual gatherings may have occurred. Occasional grooves along walls hint at the movement of heavy objects, possibly ceremonial platforms or containers, demonstrating a practical knowledge of engineering alongside spiritual or social purposes. The interplay between natural cave features and human technique modifications implies careful planning and skillful execution in conditions both damp and treacherous. Reports of metal plates, stone sculptures, and unusual artifacts have fueled speculation about the activities that once took place in these hidden depths. Though many findings remain unverified or lost over time, fragments recovered by explorers and archaeologists suggest deliberate placement within the chambers. Some metal fragments display unusual composition, prompting debate over the technological capabilities of the cave's ancient visitors. These artifacts add to the sense of otherworldliness within Taos, hinting at a culture capable of complex ceremonial or metallurgical activity far below the surface of the Andean jungle. Some passages appear to have served ritual or communal purposes, though the fragmented evidence leaves modern observers grasping for certainty. Carved alcoves, depressions in the stone, and faint traces of fire suggest offerings or gatherings may have taken place within otherwise inaccessible chambers. The spatial arrangement appears intentional, guiding movement through particular routes while reserving deeper chambers for specialized or secret activities. These patterns evoke a sense of deliberate orchestration, reinforcing the cave's role as a stage for human intent, intertwined with natural grandeur. Stalactites hang overhead and subterranean streams thread through corridors, their presence shaping and limiting the spaces humans could modify while demanding remarkable skill. Builders and ritual participants had to navigate these obstacles, working around fragile formations and shifting watercourses without compromising structural integrity. The coexistence of natural and artificial features reflects an intimate understanding of the cave's environment, revealing that the modifications were not imposed recklessly but harmonized with the underlying geology, amplifying the cave's enigmatic aura. Explorers and archaeologists have documented partial surveys and anecdotal accounts, revealing both astonishing finds and the persistent gaps in our understanding of the cave's history. Expeditions in the 20th century confirmed the cave's labyrinthine complexity, while interviews with local Shuar inhabitants provided insights into oral histories and legends linked to the subterranean chambers. Every new survey uncovers passageways previously unknown, yet no exploration has definitively mapped all chambers or confirmed the purpose of every modification. Each discovery is met with fresh questions, as the cave seems to resist full comprehension, maintaining its aura of mystery despite centuries of inquiry. The positioning of entrances and access routes suggests a deliberate relationship with surface settlements, allowing the cave to serve as both a hidden sanctuary and a controlled ceremonial site. Paths leading into the jungle appear oriented for ease of approach while maintaining secrecy, implying that the cave's use may have been restricted to initiates or particular groups. The interplay between visibility and concealment, coupled with the cave's immense internal complexity, reinforces the impression that Taos functioned as both a practical and spiritual space, where natural formation and human design merged into a setting that was sacred, secret, and possibly transformative. Every carved wall, every altered chamber, hints at a culture that interacted with the natural world in ways now almost impossible to reconstruct, leaving the cave as a testament to ingenuity and mystery. The combination of natural formations, deliberate modifications, and enigmatic artifacts gives the Taos cave an enduring sense of otherworldliness, as though each turn and chamber contains traces of rituals and knowledge lost to time. Its passages continue to invite exploration, while resisting complete understanding, preserving a tension between discovery and concealment that has endured for millennia. Enveloped by the jungle, where shadows stretch into uncharted chambers, the Taos cave continues to guard secrets that may forever elude those who seek their origin and meaning. The Hawara Labyrinth tunnels of Egypt. Even the most confident traveller can feel lost amid the sprawling corridors of the Hawara Labyrinth. where every turn seems to contradict the last, and the mind struggles to map what the eyes cannot fully grasp. Constructed during the reign of Pharaoh Amenemhat III, the labyrinth was conceived as a monumental complex, part tomb, part ceremonial centre, and perhaps an administrative hub, reflecting the ambitions of one of Egypt's most influential rulers. Accounts suggest that no ordinary building could match its scale or complexity, and even today the surviving corridors and partial reconstructions hint at a network designed to challenge human perception as much as to house sacred or political functions. Long halls intersect with narrow passageways, creating a maze of stone whose scale and precision leave modern observers both awed and unsettled. Some chambers open into expansive halls, supported by massive pillars, while adjoining rooms force passage through tight, almost claustrophobic corridors. This interplay of openness and restriction amplifies disorientation, creating a labyrinthine experience intended to awe, confuse, and perhaps even protect the secrets contained within. The architecture demonstrates remarkable planning, with each junction and chamber carefully calculated to accommodate both structural demands and ceremonial movement. Herodotus described chambers beyond imagining, claiming staircases, halls, and tombs that surpassed ordinary comprehension. Yet modern excavation has revealed only fragments of his account. While some sections have been confirmed by archaeologists, much of what he recorded remains lost beneath rubble or vanished with time. The discrepancies between historical records and physical evidence deepen the labyrinth's mystery, leaving scholars and explorers to speculate about the original extent and purpose of the complex. Every newly uncovered corridor raises further questions, as if the labyrinth itself resists the certainty of human interpretation. Every wall and column bears witness to architectural mastery, from the careful alignment of stone blocks to the subtle manipulation of load-bearing structures that allowed vast chambers to remain intact over millennia. Builders clearly understood the limitations of local limestone and employed ingenious techniques to maintain stability while crafting chambers of impressive size. Passageways were designed to accommodate processions and movement of people and objects, suggesting that the labyrinth was intended not only to impress, but also to function efficiently within its ceremonial and administrative roles. The scale of construction reveals ambition on a level rarely matched in Egyptian architecture. Portions of the labyrinth's corridors remain partially explored or collapsed, leaving tantalizing hints of additional chambers and reinforcing the labyrinth's reputation as a puzzle that resists full unraveling. Collapsed ceilings, hidden entryways, and layers of sediment have obscured portions of the network, making a comprehensive survey impossible. This partial visibility enhances the labyrinth's aura, as scholars must reconstruct its design from fragments, much as one might attempt to understand a vast city from a handful of streets. The incomplete picture leaves a lingering sense of both achievement and enigma, a testament to a civilization whose engineering and planning were far ahead of its time. The labyrinth may have served administrative, ceremonial, and mortuary functions, reflecting the political and spiritual ambitions of Pharaoh Amenemhat III and the wider Egyptian elite. Its monumental scale communicated authority and divine association, asserting the pharaoh's power while providing a sacred and controlled environment for ritual and governance. The alignment of chambers, placement of halls, and connection to surface structures suggest deliberate planning to manage access, movement, and visibility, emphasizing both secrecy and grandeur. This dual purpose reinforces the idea that the labyrinth was a multidimensional achievement, where utility and symbolism were inseparable. Despite detailed surveys and modern excavation, parts of the Hawara complex remain inaccessible, suggesting that secrecy itself was woven into the labyrinth's very design. Some passageways end abruptly or are blocked by deliberate stone placement, while others disappear beneath centuries of sediment. These deliberate obstacles may have served as protective measures for burial chambers or ceremonial halls, ensuring that only the initiated could navigate the full extent of the labyrinth. Such careful concealment enhances the sense that the complex was as much about controlling knowledge and access as it was about monumental display. Navigating its corridors evokes both wonder and unease, as each chamber and turn reminds visitors of the limits of human comprehension when confronted with the scale and intent of its creators. The labyrinth challenges both mind and body, forcing one to reckon with an architectural vision designed to awe, confound, and endure. Every surviving hall, pillar, and corridor stands as a testament to a civilization capable of extraordinary planning, execution, and symbolic expression, leaving modern observers to marvel at what was achieved and lament what may be forever lost beneath layers of time and stone. Though examined for hundreds of years, the Hawara Labyrinth continues to defy comprehension, its countless corridors quietly guarding the ambitions and secrets of a vanished civilization. The Indus Valley subsurface grids of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa. From above, the streets of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa reveal a meticulous pattern, a geometric precision that hints at an unseen network beneath the bustling cityscape of the Bronze Age. The Indus Valley civilization, one of the world's earliest urban societies, engineered settlements with an almost mathematical clarity, aligning streets and public spaces with remarkable foresight. Beneath this ordered surface, however, lay a hidden world of subsurface grids, drains, tunnels, and brick-lined conduits that channeled water, waste, and perhaps more mysterious flows through the lifeblood of the city. These subterranean systems reflect both ingenuity and intention, designed to support daily life while safeguarding the settlement from floods and disease. Within these ordered avenues, a web of covered drains and brick-lined tunnels stretches in every direction, channeling water and waste with an ingenuity that continues to confound modern engineers. Each tunnel is meticulously sloped, allowing rainwater and sewage to flow away from homes and streets efficiently. Manholes and removable bricks provided access for maintenance, revealing that the builders not only understood the principles of hydraulics, but also anticipated the need for long-term upkeep. The precision and consistency of these channels suggest a centralized authority capable of organizing labor and resources on a scale unmatched in contemporary societies. Each tunnel and passage is composed of carefully fired bricks, aligned with painstaking precision, demonstrating an understanding of durability and hydraulic principles rarely seen in contemporaneous civilizations. The bricks themselves are standardized in size, pointing to mass production and quality control far ahead of their time. Joints were carefully filled and sloped to prevent leaks, and some channels show evidence of repair and modification, suggesting continuous adaptation over generations. Such engineering allowed the subsurface grids to function effectively for centuries, even as the cities above evolved or were rebuilt. Hidden corridors, long lost to time and sediment, occasionally surface to reveal chambers whose purpose remains tantalizingly ambiguous, suggesting a network far larger than excavations have uncovered. Some areas appear to connect residential sectors with public granaries and ceremonial spaces, while others terminate abruptly or bend in ways that defy current mapping efforts. These partially explored sections fuel speculation. Were they purely functional, or did they carry ritual or symbolic significance as well? The unknown stretches add an aura of mystery, implying that the Indus inhabitants may have embedded secrets within the very veins of their cities. The reach and design of the underground network suggest a society that prioritized sanitation, urban cohesion, and centralized planning, reflecting an advanced level of civic organization. Evidence points to careful coordination between residential layouts and the subsurface systems, indicating that the planners considered both comfort and efficiency. Such meticulous design would have required not only skilled labourers, but also a governing structure capable of enforcing standards, distributing resources, and supervising the construction and maintenance of these tunnels over generations. Compared to the contemporaneous cities of Mesopotamia and Egypt, the Indus subsurface grids exhibit an unparalleled integration of urban planning and subterranean engineering. Whereas other civilizations relied on open drains or ad hoc channels, Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa developed covered systems that protected water quality and facilitated orderly sanitation. The ingenuity of this integration points to a civilization that valued both public health and urban aesthetics, merging technical mastery with a keen understanding of social organization. This fusion of function and foresight remains remarkable even by modern standards. Questions endure regarding certain covered passages, whether they were meant to conceal, protect, or serve symbolic functions, their full meaning lost to the ages. Archaeologists debate whether some tunnels might have housed ritual activities, served as storage, or merely reflected defensive considerations. The ambiguity of these hidden structures amplifies the mystery of the Indus Valley, leaving modern observers to wonder how much knowledge the civilization encoded within the very pathways of its cities. Each newly uncovered segment raises both technical and historical questions, emphasizing the complexity of this ancient urban world. The surviving tunnels, drains, and grids continue to intrigue and challenge those who study them, revealing a civilization whose mastery of space and water remains a model of ingenuity. Modern engineers and urban planners examine these ancient networks for insight into sustainable city design, acknowledging the sophistication required to achieve such a balance between function, durability, and the human experience. Every brick and passage bears silent witness to a civilization that thrived in secrecy and efficiency, leaving behind a subterranean legacy that still defies full comprehension. Through the brick-lined veins of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, echoes of a vanished civilization whisper of knowledge and ingenuity that may forever remain beyond human grasp. The Maya cenote tunnels beneath Chichen Itza. At the heart of the Yucatan jungle, a cenote glimmers like a mirror to another world, its waters both serene and treacherous, offering passage to the hidden tunnels below where the Maya left their mark. This sacred natural well, known to the ancient Maya as a portal to the underworld, provided both water and spiritual connection. The Maya civilization, flourishing between the 6th and 10th centuries CE in this region, constructed subtle modifications to its cavernous interior, carving steps, channels, and narrow passageways to access the cool depths while negotiating the challenges of limestone geology. These tunnels served dual purposes: practical routes to the water and venues for ceremonial offerings, entwining survival and spirituality in a subterranean embrace. Carved steps and narrow corridors lead from the rim into the bowels of the earth, guiding pilgrims and workers alike through passages shaped by human hands yet dictated by limestone and water. Stone supports and carved walls ensure relative safety while moving through these chambers, reflecting the Maya mastery of architecture under natural constraints. In some sections, the tunnels slope steeply into the water, while in others, small platforms allow a temporary pause or ritual activity. The careful adaptation of natural features into usable tunnels illustrates a civilization attuned to both environmental forces and cultural imperatives. Fragments of jade, pottery, and skeletal remains rest in quiet repose within submerged chambers, silent testimonies to the rituals that once animated the subterranean world. Archaeologists have recovered offerings from cenotes connected to Chichen Itza, including intricately carved figurines, ornate vessels, and the bones of sacrificed individuals. These finds hint at ceremonies conducted in dimly lit tunnels, where sound and movement may have amplified spiritual presence. Each artifact carries a fragment of meaning, yet the full context of its placement and purpose remains partially obscured by centuries of sediment and water. The limestone walls and stalactites challenge both construction and exploration, yet the Maya navigated these obstacles with ingenuity, blending natural formation with practical design. In certain corridors, water channels are slightly carved to guide rainfall or underground streams, preventing flooding while maintaining accessibility. Evidence of repeated use, repairs, and modifications suggests that the tunnels were maintained over generations, reflecting long-term planning and a deep understanding of hydrology and material resilience. The interplay between natural fragility and human intervention demonstrates a subtle engineering skill. Some corridors remain partially submerged, their twists and turns eluding modern surveyors, daring each explorer to reconcile human ambition with the relentless force of water and stone. Divers mapping these passages encounter tight spaces, sudden drops, and sediment-laden chambers, revealing the limits of contemporary knowledge. Each new section discovered opens further questions about the extent of the network and its intended uses. It is as if the tunnels themselves were designed to remain partly unknowable, preserving their sacred secrecy and the aura of the underworld they represented. Every pool, channel, and carved chamber reflects the Maya understanding of water as a sacred conduit, a medium linking the mortal world to the underworld of Xibalba. The tunnels beneath Chichen Itza were not only practical routes to drinking water, but spaces where the spiritual and material intersected. Ceremonial deposits placed in recesses along the corridors suggest that each step into the darkness carried both physical and metaphysical significance, reinforcing the connection between the living and the realm of the ancestors and deities. Across the Yucatan, other cenotes bear traces of tunnels and offerings, yet none rival the scale and enigma of those beneath Chichen Itza, whose networks remain stubbornly elusive. Comparative studies reveal similar ceremonial modifications at cenotes in Koba and Tulum, yet Chichen Itza's tunnels exhibit a unique combination of depth, connectivity, and integration with ritual architecture above. Scholars continue to debate the full extent of these passages, suspecting that some may connect to underground streams or caves still hidden from modern exploration, waiting silently beneath the sunlit plazas. As scientists probe and divers illuminate sections of the labyrinthine waters, countless passages remain untouched, preserving mysteries that have endured for more than a millennium. The convergence of natural limestone formations, underground streams, and human modification creates a labyrinth that challenges mapping and comprehension. The cenote tunnels embody the Maya fusion of utility, spirituality, and engineering foresight, a subterranean world where silence, water, and shadow preserve secrets that the living can glimpse but never fully grasp. Winding through these shadowed veins of Chichen Itza's cenote tunnels, the waters conceal not only the bones and offerings of the past, but the lingering secrets of a civilization that spoke to the underworld in whispers that still ripple across centuries. The Minoan subterranean galleries of Knossos, Crete. Footsteps echo softly through narrow stone corridors where the Minoans once moved with purpose, leaving traces of both daily life and hidden ritual beneath the palace. These galleries, carved into the limestone beneath Knossos, formed a network of passageways linking storage chambers, ceremonial rooms, and water channels. The Minoan civilization, which flourished between approximately 2000 and 1450 BCE, demonstrated remarkable architectural and hydraulic ingenuity in the construction of these tunnels. While the palace above dazzles with frescoes and multi-story halls, it is the subterranean galleries that reveal the silent, functional heartbeat of the complex, a space where labour, ritual, and secrecy intertwined. Excavators in the early 20th century uncovered a labyrinth that defied expectations, revealing galleries beneath the grand halls and frescoed chambers. Sir Arthur Evans's work brought to light a hidden world beneath the sunlit palace, including narrow corridors, recessed rooms, and concealed stairways. His findings suggested that these spaces were not mere utility tunnels, but carefully planned structures that served multiple purposes, accommodating both practical needs like storage and water management, and possibly ritual activities that required seclusion and privacy. Each newly revealed passage added layers of complexity to the understanding of Minoan life. Water channels carved into the limestone floors hint at a sophisticated understanding of drainage and stability, preserving both tunnels and palace above. The Minoans directed rainwater and runoff into designated underground channels, ensuring that even during storms, the palace would remain largely dry and structurally sound. Ventilation shafts and sloped floors demonstrate their awareness of airflow and maintenance, allowing air to circulate and water to flow without disrupting the gallery's delicate construction. The precision of these modifications underscores a mastery of subterranean engineering that rivals their above-ground architectural feats. Certain secluded chambers, barely accessible and dimly illuminated, suggest spaces reserved for sacred rites or restricted administrative activity. Frescoes depicting ritual scenes, along with niches for offerings, hint at ceremonial use of these hidden rooms. Some chambers contain depressions in the floor, possibly intended for water collection or symbolic purposes, while others appear designed for brief congregational contemplation. The careful placement of these chambers within the labyrinthine galleries suggests an intricate choreography of movement, where the act of traversing the tunnels may itself have held ceremonial significance. Intricate inscriptions and symbolic markings etched into the walls of some galleries hint at a system of communication or ritual notation lost to modern understanding. Archaeologists have discovered occasional carved symbols, patterns, and possible counting marks within select passageways, which may have guided movement, indicated storage contents, or even recorded ceremonial sequences. Unlike the decorative frescoes above, these inscriptions are utilitarian yet enigmatic, suggesting a practical yet secret language used exclusively within the underground network. Some markings correspond with adjacent chambers or drainage systems, raising the possibility that the Minoans designed these symbols to communicate hidden instructions, or maintain sacred knowledge. Their exact purpose remains unknown, but the presence of these markings underscores that the galleries were more than simple tunnels. They were a controlled, coded environment that shaped the actions of those who moved within it. Passageways extend towards storage rooms, workshops, and secretive corridors, many of which remain partially blocked or unexplored. Granaries and storerooms connected to the galleries suggest that the Minoans could move goods and provisions unseen, protecting them from theft or environmental damage. Workrooms for pottery or craft activity may have been connected by narrow tunnels, allowing artisans to operate quietly below the palace's public spaces. The full extent of these networks remains elusive. Collapsed sections and sediment conceal entire corridors that may have once extended deeper than modern explorers have reached. The geological composition of Crete posed both obstacles and opportunities, as the Minoans adapted limestone stability and erosion to their subterranean designs. In places where soft rock threatened collapse, wooden reinforcements or carefully angled walls provided stability. In harder limestone, the tunnels were carved precisely, creating passageways that could withstand centuries of use. Evidence of maintenance and modification over generations indicates that the galleries were not static. They evolved with the needs of the palace, reflecting a culture attentive to both the practical and symbolic dimensions of their environment. Other Minoan sites reveal similar galleries, yet none match the scale and enigmatic complexity of those beneath Knossos, where much remains conjectural. Phaistos and Malea, for example, contain underground storage and drainage passages, but they lack the labyrinthine integration and ceremonial associations seen at Knossos. The combination of functional sophistication, ritual potential, and hidden connectivity renders the palace galleries exceptional, hinting at a cultural worldview where secrecy, ritual, and daily life were inseparable even beneath the surface. Even with modern mapping and conservation, the full network eludes comprehension, hinting at functions and rituals that have been lost to time. Archaeologists continue to speculate about the presence of additional chambers, hidden stairways, or ceremonial spaces yet to be revealed. Each exploration uncovers more evidence of Minoan ingenuity, yet simultaneously deepens the sense of mystery, leaving unanswered questions about how the galleries were used, what rituals took place, and what secrets might remain concealed in the shadows. Veiled in the subterranean corridors of Knossos, the Minoan galleries preserve whispers of ceremonies, secrets, and ingenuity that the sunlit palace above can never fully reveal. The Achaemenid rock tunnels of Nakshi Rostam, Iran. Massive facades carved into the cliff face rise like frozen proclamations of power, beneath which the Achaemenid Empire etched secret corridors for purposes now lost to history. The site, located near modern-day Shiraz, served as both a necropolis and a ceremonial centre, where royal tombs loom above a labyrinth of rock-cut tunnels. Constructed during the height of Achaemenid influence, around the 6th to 4th centuries BCE, these underground galleries reflect a civilization that combined monumental artistry with practical engineering. While the tombs themselves display regal grandeur, the hidden tunnels reveal a quieter, more deliberate dimension, spaces where ritual, administration, and secrecy converged in the living stone. Early explorers mapping the rock tunnels were met with passageways that defied expectation, revealing hidden chambers intertwined with royal tombs. Archaeological investigations in the 19th and 20th centuries gradually uncovered galleries, stairways, and niches that extend from the cliff's base into its heart. Many of these spaces were partially blocked by debris or sediment, preserving elements that may have once been crucial to ceremonial or protective functions. The initial discovery of these tunnels challenged assumptions about Achaemenid construction, suggesting that beneath their monumental tombs lay a deliberate network of subterranean design, intended to control access and obscure meaning from casual observers. Tools and techniques of the Achaemenid builders emerge in the precision of rock-cut walls, corners, and ceilings, hinting at centuries of engineering knowledge. Carvings indicate the use of chisels and abrasion methods suited to hard limestone, allowing chambers to maintain stability despite centuries of erosion. Ventilation shafts and carefully angled staircases point to a sophisticated understanding of airflow and human movement, ensuring that those who traverse the galleries could do so safely. Even minor architectural features, such as recessed niches and shallow trenches, appear purposefully designed. Whether for ceremonial objects, water drainage, or structural reinforcement, Inscriptions and symbolic reliefs lining certain galleries suggest ceremonial functions or coded messages for those permitted to enter. The walls bear faint carvings of imperial iconography, winged figures, royal attendants, and processions that may have served as guides for ritual movement or markers of hierarchical authority. Some symbols remain partially eroded, their meaning speculative, yet they imbue the corridors with a sense of sacred purpose. The careful placement of these reliefs hints at an intentional choreography of passage, where traversing the tunnels was itself a controlled act, possibly reserved for priests, officials, or family members of the royal house. Narrow passageways branch unpredictably, leading to small niches and unfinished chambers, some sealed or partially collapsed, leaving their purpose tantalizingly uncertain. These offshoots suggest that the tunnels were not solely for access, but also for storage, ritual preparation, or even the concealment of objects and information. Certain corridors twist in unexpected directions, implying that the architects intended both functionality and disorientation. The combination of open galleries, hidden chambers, and dead-end passages enhances the impression that these tunnels were designed to protect knowledge and preserve control over sacred spaces. The tunnel's proximity to royal tombs implies a deliberate integration of ritual and secrecy, creating a subterranean landscape that mirrors the hierarchy above. Access from the cliff face is carefully controlled, with narrow stairways and low passageways limiting entry to those authorized. Scholars speculate that the tunnels may have allowed ceremonies to proceed unseen, or permitted officials to move offerings and messages between chambers without crossing the open terraces. The subtle orchestration of spatial experience suggests that the underground galleries were more than practical conduits. They were immersive extensions of royal ideology, reinforcing the authority and sanctity of those interred above. While other Achaemenid sites feature subterranean elements, none combine monumental art and hidden passageways with the scale and complexity of Naqsh-e Rostam. Persepolis, for example, contains ceremonial staircases and storage areas, yet lacks the intricate network of secret tunnels integrated with royal tombs. The combination of hidden corridors, symbolic reliefs, and precise engineering creates a distinct architectural phenomenon, one that reflects both the empire's administrative sophistication and its obsession with controlled access to sacred spaces. Even with modern study, the full extent of the rock galleries and the precise meaning of many inscriptions remain unresolved, preserving an aura of imperial mystery. Excavations continue to reveal new niches and partially blocked corridors, yet large sections may remain undiscovered, hidden behind centuries of stonefall or sediment. Each new passage that emerges confirms the deliberate and layered complexity of Achaemenid design, while simultaneously emphasizing how much has been lost to time, leaving modern observers to wonder at the empire's intentions and rituals. Shadows cling to the carved rock of Naqsh-e Rostam, lingering in passages that may still guard the secrets of an empire long vanished from the sunlit world above. The qanat motherwell tunnels of ancient Persia. Beneath the sun-baked plains of ancient Persia, long before the sprawling empires of Cyrus and Darius, civilizations grappled with a problem that would define their survival: water. In regions where rivers vanished into sand and rainfall was a fleeting visitor, early engineers devised a solution both practical and enigmatic: the qanat. These subterranean channels, fed by vertical motherwells that pierced the earth, carried precious groundwater from distant aquifers to settlements, gardens, and fields over miles of unbroken rock. Although their purpose was simple, the precision of tunnels stretching tens of kilometers still puzzles engineers. The mother wells themselves, spaced at regular intervals along the main tunnel, appear deceptively simple: cylindrical shafts, some over 30 meters deep, opening into the desert above. Yet each was carved with care, its walls lined and sometimes reinforced with stone or brick to prevent collapse. These wells served as access and ventilation points, hinting at an understanding of airflow and hydraulic pressure. Some surviving qanats date to the 1st millennium BCE, even fragments reveal maintenance routines, showing they were more than irrigation systems, lifelines tied to social and religious life. Archaeological evidence from regions such as Kerman and Yazd shows that qanat construction required coordinated labour across generations. Workers would begin at the aquifer and sink vertical shafts, each requiring careful measurement to maintain the gentle slope necessary for water to flow steadily. Unlike modern tunnels, which rely on advanced surveying instruments, the methods employed by ancient Persians are mostly speculative, though some theories suggest the use of water levels, rudimentary plumb lines, and astronomical observations. In several qanats, the corridors widen unexpectedly at certain points, forming chambers large enough for workers to rest or store tools, yet some expansions seem intentionally irregular, almost labyrinthine. Scholars have debated whether these variations were functional, meant to manage airflow and water pressure, or if they had a ceremonial purpose lost to time. Certain qanats align with sacred mountains or shrines, suggesting that their construction may have carried symbolic weight, turning practical infrastructure into a bridge between the human and the divine. The tunnels themselves vary in height and width, sometimes barely large enough for a person to crouch, sometimes wide enough for a mule to carry goods. The rock into which they were carved is often limestone, soft enough to excavate with hand tools yet prone to erosion, making the survival of some ancient qanats all the more remarkable. In places, inscriptions in Aramaic or Old Persian mark ownership, maintenance schedules, or even prayers for the water's purity, tiny echoes of the hands and minds that shaped these hidden corridors. In others, no markings survive, leaving a mute testimony of engineering skill that predates written records, a quiet reminder that knowledge can persist in stone long after those who held it have vanished. Water in a qanat moves silently, its flow almost imperceptible except when emerging at the outlet. Some qanats intersect with natural fissures or caverns, forcing builders to adapt courses with ingenuity that borders on the artistic, creating subterranean mazes whose design seems both intuitive and deliberate. The skill required to maintain a constant slope over kilometers through solid rock while avoiding collapse and managing underground pressure indicates a level of knowledge far beyond what casual observation would suggest, and yet the methods remain largely invisible to modern science. The persistence of these tunnels, some still in use today, underscores the durability of ancient Persian engineering. Communities built above and around them depended on their function, but the full extent of their construction networks remains partially hidden, as many qanats are lost beneath centuries of shifting sands or urban development. Remote surveys using satellite imagery have revealed patterns of unseen tunnels stretching farther than previously imagined, hinting at an almost obsessive mastery of the subterranean landscape. In several regions, qanats branch into subsidiary channels whose purpose is unclear, suggesting a system not merely utilitarian but also experimental or ritualistic in nature, a blend of necessity and ingenuity shrouded in mystery. Walking along the surface above a qanat today, one might see only the small openings of mother wells, dotted across the desert like ancient sentinels, yet beneath, water flows silently, following routes that defy modern understanding. Every shaft and tunnel speaks of countless hours of labour, precise calculations, and perhaps secrets no text has preserved. The qanats endure as both practical infrastructure and enigma, a testament to human perseverance and ingenuity, yet their origins, surveying methods, and the minds behind them continue to elude full comprehension. Out of reach, far below the desert's restless sands, a mother well waits, its shadowed depths holding secrets of water, engineering, and perhaps a knowledge humanity has yet to reclaim. The Hittite subterranean gate tunnels at Hattusa, Turkey. The Hittites constructed their gates not merely as barriers, but as thresholds concealing a labyrinth of stone that might have directed armies, rituals, or secrets with equal precision. Beneath the fortified entrances of Hattusa, the capital city that rose to prominence around 1600 BCE, tunnels twist and descend in ways that modern archaeologists are only beginning to map. Their existence was long suspected by local folklore, and partial excavations in the 20th century confirmed that beneath the city's outer walls, carefully carved passages extend for tens of meters, often aligning with gates and towers above. The true scope of the subterranean network remains uncertain, suggesting that the Hittites, renowned for their skill in urban planning and military architecture, intentionally buried knowledge beneath the very stones that define their power. Each cut into the limestone shows evidence of calculated effort, as if the builders were negotiating the very limits of stone while anticipating centuries of unseen movement above and below. The tunnels vary in height and width. Some are just large enough for a crouching person to pass, others are broad enough to allow the movement of armed troops or small carts. Ceilings are sometimes supported with corbelled stone, while walls display tool marks from chisels and hammers that reveal a rhythm of labour long forgotten. In certain chambers, the stone has been smoothed almost imperceptibly, suggesting attention not only to structural stability, but to human experience as one navigates the passageways. Small niches appear in select locations, their purpose still debated, perhaps as offerings, weapon storage, or markers to guide those moving in the shadows. Where tunnels branch into small chambers or abruptly vanish, historians debate whether they were traps, ceremonial alcoves, or practical measures for unseen traffic within the fortress walls. Some corridors lead to false openings, where an intruder might encounter a dead end while defenders above monitored movements through vertical shafts or peepholes. Archaeological surveys have found evidence of narrow staircases and inclined ramps, allowing passage between levels and connecting subterranean corridors to surface gates. The ingenuity of these designs points to a complex understanding of both topography and human behaviour, and the mixture of functional, defensive, and possibly ritual considerations complicates any single interpretation. Remarkable precision in the shaping of walls and ceilings suggests that the Hittites employed a combination of careful measurement and practical geometry, using sightlines and levelling methods now inferred from surviving structures. In some corridors, the stone surfaces display faint grooves and tool marks indicating repeated adjustments, hinting at a trial-and-error approach that balanced speed with long-term stability. Archaeologists have noted subtle variations in tunnel height and width that may have been designed to regulate airflow, control visibility, or even manage the movement of troops and goods above. Evidence of tiny stone wedges and mortared fittings in junction points to an understanding of stress distribution and durability, revealing that the tunnels were engineered to endure centuries of use while maintaining secrecy. In addition, slight deviations in alignment at branching points suggest intentional design choices, possibly to mislead intruders, control access, or mark symbolic thresholds within the underground network. Inside these passages, the air thickens with silence, carrying the distant resonance of footsteps long past and the subtle temperature shift of Earth undisturbed for millennia. The acoustics in some chambers amplify even the quietest sounds, creating the impression that the tunnels themselves are listening. In others, sharp turns and constricted openings create pockets of echo and shadow, producing a disorienting effect for anyone traversing the hidden network. Some passages descend steeply, their angles suggesting that speed of movement or control over who passed through them may have been as important as concealment. The tunnel's design forces a traveller to slow down and adapt, making them as psychologically compelling as they are physically demanding. Careful alignments and irregular recesses hint that the tunnels were more than functional. The Hittites may have embedded symbolic meaning in angles and dimensions that remain indecipherable today. Certain corridors intersect at points aligned with ceremonial towers or temples above, implying a relationship between the subterranean and sacred architecture. Small carvings and graffiti, largely eroded, have been found in some chambers, faint traces of markings that may have served as guides, prayers, or reminders for those who moved through these spaces. The blending of practical and symbolic features, particularly beneath major gates such as the Lion Gate and the King's Gate, suggests that movement underground may have carried social or ritual significance, unknown to modern observers. Even after extensive excavation, some corridors remain closed, their entrances concealed or collapsed, leaving a puzzle that modern mapping has yet to fully decode. Remote sensing and geophysical surveys hint at additional chambers and tunnels hidden beneath rubble or soil, their exact layout unknown. The complexity of the network, with its branching routes, abrupt dead ends, and occasional sealed niches, challenges assumptions about Hittite engineering and urban planning. Every partially revealed tunnel raises further questions about the city's defensive strategies, ritual practices, and the intentions of those who first carved these passages. Twisting and disappearing beneath Hattusa's gates, hidden corridors guard enigmas that even the most determined archaeologists may never fully uncover. The Etruscan Hypogeum tunnels of Cerveteri, Italy. By the 7th century BCE, the Etruscans had established a sophisticated culture in central Italy, constructing cities, temples, and necropolises that reflected both civic organization and an intense preoccupation with the afterlife. Cerveteri, one of their most prominent urban centers, became renowned for its elaborate burial complexes, where the living carefully prepared subterranean corridors for the dead. These tunnels were not mere storage spaces for the deceased. They embodied the Etruscans' beliefs in a journey beyond mortality, a liminal realm where architecture, symbolism, and ritual intersected. Historical records and inscriptions suggest that families invested great resources in the design and decoration of these hypogeum chambers, seeking to honour ancestors while ensuring the protection of sacred relics and offerings for centuries to come. The hypogeum tunnels themselves were carved from tufa, a soft volcanic stone abundant in the region, which allowed artisans to sculpt corridors, niches, and chambers with extraordinary precision. Sarcophagi were arranged in carefully measured sequences, often accompanied by side recesses for votive offerings, ceramic urns, and personal belongings of the deceased. The tunnel's dimensions vary significantly. Some passages are narrow, forcing visitors to move single file, while central halls accommodate larger groups, perhaps for ceremonial gatherings. Corbelled ceilings, sloped floors, and strategic placement of entryways demonstrate an advanced understanding of structural integrity, suggesting that the builders intended these corridors to endure both time and human activity without collapse. Traces of tool marks, grooves, and carved joints reveal the labour-intensive process, while subtle variations in height and width hint at symbolic or functional reasoning lost to modern scholarship. Evidence of careful engineering extends beyond the layout of chambers, revealing an understanding of drainage, ventilation, and the preservation of human remains that underscores the Etruscans' practical as well as ceremonial foresight. Some corridors were designed with gentle slopes and recessed channels to prevent water accumulation, while small air shafts and vents may have allowed stale air to escape, reducing decay and preserving the integrity of the burial spaces. In certain galleries, the arrangement of niches and sarcophagi appears optimized for both ritual procession and structural stability, with load-bearing walls carefully calculated to support the tufa ceilings above. Archaeological studies suggest that the builders may have employed simple leveling tools and measuring cords to maintain symmetry and alignment, reflecting a sophisticated approach to underground architecture that balances spiritual intent with tangible, long-lasting construction techniques. Even without illumination, the hypogeum passages possess an uncanny acoustic quality. Footsteps echo along long galleries, and faint voices reverberate in ways that amplify or distort sound, depending on chamber geometry. Archaeologists and researchers have speculated that these effects were intentional, designed to heighten ritual presence or signal key moments during funerary rites. In certain halls, small recesses and sculpted surfaces appear to influence airflow, creating subtle shifts in temperature or humidity that may have enhanced the sensory perception of those participating in ceremonies. These carefully controlled environmental elements suggest that the Etruscans were not merely concerned with form, but with the experiential impact of the tunnels on both the living and the dead. Painted motifs, carved reliefs, and symbolic arrangements of sarcophagi indicate that the tunnels were conceived as sacred spaces, where every architectural choice carried meaning. Mythological figures, geometric patterns, and abstract iconography appear alongside practical features such as stairways and niches, reflecting a dual purpose of ritual and functionality. Some chambers feature alignments that may have corresponded with celestial observations or calendrical events, though interpretations remain tentative. The deliberate placement of offerings and inscriptions within alcoves further underscores the Etruscans' intent to guide and protect the deceased on their journey beyond life. Each corridor seems designed to convey both instruction and awe, intertwining practical utility with spiritual significance. Archaeological exploration has revealed numerous sarcophagi, some adorned with painted lids or carved faces, alongside fragments of inscriptions that commemorate the dead or invoke protective deities. Yet much of the hypogeum remains inaccessible. Collapsed tunnels, blocked chambers, and layers of sediment obscure entire sections, leaving only fragments of the overall plan. Even where excavation has occurred, gaps in knowledge persist, making it impossible to fully reconstruct the sequence of rituals or the exact use of each corridor. The mysteries of the network are compounded by the intentional concealment of certain passages, suggesting that secrecy, protection, and sacred restriction were embedded into the tunnel's very design. Viewed alongside other Etruscan necropolises, Cerveteri's hypogeum tunnels reveal both common cultural practices and singular ingenuity. The use of precise spatial organization, acoustic manipulation, and symbolic decoration influenced later Roman funerary architecture. Yet the servitary tunnels retain a uniquely esoteric character. Scholars continue to study the network not only for its engineering and artistic qualities, but for the insights it may provide into Etruscan concepts of death, the afterlife, and the power of ritualized space. Despite centuries of excavation, the Hypogeum remains a testament to a civilization that sought to shape the journey of souls as carefully as the stone corridors that guided them. The secrets of certain corridors may never come to light, their purpose and the rites they witness swallowed by time, leaving only the faintest echoes of a civilization's most intimate mysteries. The ancient Sabaean tunnels of Marib, Yemen. The Sabaeans were a civilization shaped by the desert yet defined by ambition, thriving in southern Arabia from around the 8th century BCE to the early centuries CE. Their prosperity depended on controlling the scarce and unpredictable flow of water, a necessity that spurred remarkable feats of engineering and urban planning. The city of Marib became the heart of this achievement, its survival and wealth tied to the legendary Marib Dam and the intricate network of tunnels that channeled water to fields, reservoirs, and urban centres. Beyond practicality, these subterranean passages reflected a society that wove technology, governance, and belief into a single tapestry, treating water not just as a resource but as a symbol of authority and divine favour. Inscriptions discovered near Marib praise rulers and engineers, hinting at the cultural and spiritual weight of these constructions, while the tunnels themselves serve as enduring monuments to human ingenuity in the face of a harsh environment. The purpose of the tunnels extended far beyond the simple transport of water. They allowed the Sabaeans to irrigate fields across the surrounding desert, sustain a dense urban population, and protect a city that depended entirely on scarce rainfall and seasonal floods. Control of water became synonymous with political and religious power, as rulers who could manipulate the subterranean flows commanded both survival and social order. The tunnels may have also held ceremonial significance, with carefully placed niches and inscriptions indicating that water management was intertwined with rituals meant to secure divine favour for the land and its people. In this way, the subterranean network was both a lifeline and a stage for the interplay between human mastery and spiritual belief, blending utility with symbolism in ways that remain only partially understood today. Construction of the tunnels demonstrates remarkable technical skill. Carved into limestone bedrock with careful alignment, many passages maintain precise gradients to ensure a steady flow of water from catchment points to reservoirs and fields. Vertical shafts, or mother wells, provided access for maintenance, aeration and sediment removal, while lateral conduits branched out to distribute water efficiently. Archaeologists have noted tool marks and grooves in the stone, suggesting that simple yet effective surveying tools, plumb lines, levelling rods and measured cords were used to achieve this precision. Some passages are narrow, allowing only a single worker to descend, while others expand into chambers that could accommodate larger teams, indicating a carefully planned system of access, inspection, and repair. In certain areas, the tunnels converge with the foundations of the Marib Dam itself, revealing a sophisticated integration of surface and subsurface hydraulic infrastructure that continues to impress engineers today. The hydraulic ingenuity of the Sabaeans extended beyond alignment and passageway design. Ventilation shafts were incorporated to prevent stagnation and maintain air circulation, while sediment traps and slight channel slopes helped manage debris and reduce blockages. Some conduits were designed to withstand seasonal floods, distributing excess water safely to prevent damage to both the tunnels and the city above. Archaeological evidence also indicates that stairways and access points were discreetly placed, allowing workers to monitor and maintain the system while preserving the tunnel's structural integrity, and perhaps keeping some areas deliberately hidden. These features demonstrate a deep understanding of both physical forces and long-term maintenance needs, reflecting a civilization capable of planning not just for immediate utility, but for centuries of use. Water held symbolic as well as practical value for the Sabaeans. Certain niches within the tunnels, along with traces of inscriptions, suggest ceremonial offerings may have been made at strategic points, invoking blessings for abundance or protection against drought. The act of channeling water itself could have been a ritual, transforming mundane engineering into an expression of divine stewardship. By controlling the flow of life-giving water, the Sabaeans exerted authority over both nature and society, elevating their hydraulic works to a manifestation of spiritual and civic power. These intertwining threads of engineering, governance, and belief imbued the tunnels with a purpose that transcended their visible function, leaving traces of an ancient worldview encoded in stone. Excavations have revealed fragments of inscriptions, partial channels, and collapsed sections of tunnels, offering glimpses into the sophistication of the network while emphasizing how much remains unknown. Many passages remain blocked by sediment, debris, or collapse, and others extend beyond the reach of modern surveyors. The difficulty in fully reconstructing the system preserves a sense of mystery, leaving archaeologists to speculate about the full-scale, precise construction techniques and the full ceremonial or practical uses of each tunnel. The scattered evidence conveys both the skill of the Sabaeans and the challenge of uncovering a civilization's hidden depths in a landscape transformed by millennia. The legacy of Marib's tunnels endures, influencing subsequent hydraulic practices throughout southern Arabia and beyond. They stand as testimony to human ingenuity, resilience, and the capacity to shape both environment and society through thoughtful, precise engineering. Each remaining shaft, passage, and reservoir is a silent record of expertise, ritual, and the ambition to control the vital forces of life in a challenging world. Even as modern research continues to illuminate aspects of their design, the Sabaean tunnels remind us that much of ancient knowledge is delicate, fragmented, and sometimes deliberately concealed, leaving only hints of what was once achieved beneath the desert sands. Some truths within the tunnels may remain forever concealed, their intricate designs guarding knowledge of water and civilization that time itself has almost erased. The Khmer pre-Angkorian tunnels of Phnom Kulen, Cambodia. Long before Angkor rose to its monumental glory, the early Khmer of the Phnom Kulen plateau were already shaping the landscape with temples, passageways, and hidden chambers that intertwined spiritual and earthly realms. These tunnels, carved from the red sandstone and soft volcanic rock of the plateau, formed an enigmatic network beneath sacred sites whose purposes remain only partially understood. Phnom Kulen itself was considered a holy precinct, associated with myths of creation and the earliest Khmer kings, and it is within this context that the tunnels acquire both practical and symbolic significance. While some may have guided water to ritual pools, others appear designed for movement, ceremony, or the concealment of sacred objects. Inscriptions and remnants of offerings hint at a civilization that saw no strict boundary between the physical and the divine, embedding their beliefs in every corridor they carved. The construction of these tunnels required skill, patience, and intimate knowledge of the rock beneath their feet. Vertical shafts, narrow passageways, and small chambers demonstrate that the Khmer were adept at manipulating space for both functional and ceremonial purposes. Tool marks, chisel impressions, and carefully smoothed walls reveal an attention to detail that implies ritualized methods as much as practical labor. Some tunnels follow straight lines, while others curve with deliberate irregularity, possibly guiding initiates or water along paths intended to evoke a spiritual journey. Variations in passage size suggest that some corridors were intended for individual use, while others could accommodate groups performing ritual acts or maintenance. The integration of these tunnels with temples and natural formations implies a planning process that accounted for both topography and metaphysical significance. Many of the tunnels appear to respond to the plateau's natural contours, aligning with springs, fissures, and subtle inclines that could facilitate water flow or symbolize the passage from one realm to another. Channels often run alongside corridors or intersect at chambers that may have served as places of offering, meditation, or observation. This integration of geological and human design reflects a philosophy in which nature itself was part of sacred architecture, where the tunnel's form and function were inseparable from the spiritual landscape. The deliberate shaping of corridors to mirror or accentuate the plateau's features creates a sense that the tunnels were extensions of the sacred earth, guiding movement and perception alike. Within the subterranean network, small niches, recessed chambers, and remnants of carved imagery suggest ritual or symbolic purpose. Archaeologists have found traces of incense, small clay vessels, and other artifacts, indicating that some tunnels were more than functional, They may have been conduits for initiation rites, meditation, or offerings to deities associated with water, fertility, or kingship. The positioning of chambers and the orientation of passages could have structured ceremonial movement, guiding participants through light, shadow, and acoustics in a deliberate sequence. In this sense, the tunnels acted as both physical and spiritual architecture, shaping human experience as much as they manipulated space. Sensory impressions of these corridors amplify their mystery. Cool, damp air circulates through narrow shafts, while the acoustics amplify even the softest sounds, creating echoes that would have intensified the perception of ritual presence. Light filtering from surface openings reveals only glimpses of carved walls and uneven floors, while shadows seem to shift as one moves. The faint scent of earth, water, and residues of past offerings lingers, connecting modern visitors to rituals performed a millennium ago. These intangible qualities suggest that the tunnels were intended to affect both body and spirit, transforming movement through space into a controlled sensory experience that reinforced the sacredness of the journey. Partial inscriptions, collapsed passages, and faint carvings have emerged from the tunnels through excavation and study, hinting at both the scope and purpose of the network, yet much remains hidden. Many corridors are blocked by debris or remain inaccessible, leaving archaeologists to speculate about the full extent of the tunnels, their original construction techniques, and the rituals for which they were intended. Each fragmentary inscription, each partially preserved niche, adds a piece to the puzzle while simultaneously emphasizing how much remains unknown. The network appears intentionally complex, possibly to preserve secrecy, guide spiritual practice, or protect sacred objects, creating an enduring enigma that continues to captivate researchers. The reach of Phnom Kulen's tunnels extends far beyond their walls, illuminating the development of later Angkorian architecture and ritual practice. The integration of subterranean spaces, sacred water, and ceremonial movement at Phnom Kulen foreshadows the monumental hydraulic systems and temple designs of Angkor. These early tunnels reveal a continuity of Khmer thought, where spiritual, environmental, and architectural concerns were inseparably entwined. They stand as evidence that the Khmer of the pre-Angkorian period conceived of sacred space as something to be lived within, experienced, and navigated, leaving a legacy that resonates in every later temple, canal, and hidden chamber of the civilization. Lost amid the jungle, some passageways may never be fully explored, their chambers preserving secrets of ritual, devotion, and knowledge that the jungle has jealously kept for centuries. The Zapotec subsurface passages of Monte Albán, Mexico. The Zapotec civilization at Monte Albán flourished over centuries as a center of political authority, religious practice, and ceremonial life, its elevated plateau commanding the surrounding valleys of Oaxaca. Far from a simple settlement, the city was a carefully orchestrated stage where ritual, hierarchy, and the movement of select individuals played out with precision. Among its most enigmatic features are the subsurface passages that link plazas, tombs, and ritual spaces, their exact purpose obscured by time yet suggestive of a society deeply invested in secrecy, ceremony, and controlled access. Inscriptions and decorative carvings, though fragmentary, hint at the symbolic weight of these corridors, suggesting that they were intended to channel both people and power in ways that transcended the visible city above. The passages seem designed not merely for passage, but to manipulate perception, confining and guiding those who entered into a carefully calibrated experience. The construction of these tunnels reflects a sophisticated understanding of stonework and spatial organization. Carved directly into the volcanic rock of the Monte Albán ridge, the corridors vary in width and height, with some broad enough to allow small groups to pass together, while others are narrow, forcing single-file movement. Tool marks on walls and ceilings reveal the meticulous labour required, with chisels and stone implements shaping both function and form. Some passages align directly with ceremonial plazas or tomb entrances, while others twist and converge in ways that suggest both practical planning and deliberate concealment. The precision of these subterranean corridors demonstrates that their creators were not only skilled craftsmen, but also planners attuned to the interplay of structure, ritual, and human behaviour. Social and ritual purposes are evident in the tunnel's design and context. Certain corridors likely enabled priests, nobles, or other selected participants to move unseen between ceremonial spaces, ensuring that rituals unfolded with strict control and prescribed sequence. Concealed openings and branching paths may have allowed participants to enter or exit ritual events without being observed by the public, reinforcing social hierarchy and the separation of sacred from profane. Some chambers appear to have accommodated offerings, while niches or recesses may have held symbolic objects that structured ceremonial movement. The tunnels functioned as both physical conduits and instruments of authority, shaping who could witness or partake in sacred events. Sensory experience within these passages would have been integral to their effect. The cool, enclosed spaces amplify footsteps and whispers, creating an environment in which every sound and movement becomes heightened. Shadows shift with the flicker of torchlight, and the scent of damp stone mingled with traces of ritual substances would have made passage through the corridors an immersive, almost otherworldly experience. The interplay of light and shadow, movement and echo, suggests that the corridors were designed to affect participants' perception and emotional state, reinforcing the power and mystery of the ceremonies conducted above and below ground. Partial discoveries hint tantalizingly at the network's full extent, though much remains unknown. Excavations have revealed partially exposed passages, collapsed sections, and artifacts such as carved stones, pottery fragments, and ceremonial remnants. Some tunnels lead to tombs that are themselves enigmatic, with burials suggesting both high status and ritual significance. Other corridors remain inaccessible, blocked by centuries of debris or geological shifts, leaving their original function open to speculation. Each discovery adds detail to the picture of a civilization that valued secrecy, movement, and the choreography of human behavior, yet every block corridor emphasizes how much remains hidden beneath the surface. The symbolic significance of these subterranean passages may have been as important as their practical use. By controlling who could move through the tunnels, the Zapotecs shaped perception, asserting authority over both life and death, visibility and concealment. The passages may have mirrored cosmological beliefs, with movement through hidden corridors representing transitions between earthly and spiritual realms. The interplay of visible and invisible spaces reinforced social hierarchy, ritual order, and the city's broader worldview, making the tunnels instruments of both control and sacred experience. Monte Albán's subsurface corridors also illuminate the influence of the Zapotec approach on later Mesoamerican centers. Subsequent sites reveal a continued interest in hidden passageways, restricted movement, and ritual choreography, suggesting that the Zapotec innovations in integrating social, spiritual, and architectural strategy had an enduring impact. The tunnels stand as a testament to a civilization that understood not only the manipulation of stone, but also the orchestration of human experience, creating hidden spaces that intertwined ritual, power, and mystery in ways that continue to challenge modern understanding. The purpose of some passages may never come to light, preserving rituals and authority that the city's builders intended only for the eyes and ears of the chosen few. The Wari underground galleries of Quinua, Peru. A narrow shaft carved into the highland rock hints at a network of hidden chambers, its full extent swallowed by shadows and time before anyone could trace its corridors. Only gradually did archaeologists realize that these tunnels were not random excavations, but a deliberate subterranean system constructed centuries ago by the Wari civilization, whose highland settlements across the Andean plateau blended ceremonial, administrative, and practical needs into intricate urban designs. Quinua, perched above valleys and riverbeds, contained not only sprawling plazas and temples, but also these concealed galleries, whose winding paths and hidden chambers suggest a society capable of organizing labor, space, and ritual with remarkable precision. The gallery's alignment and spacing indicate planning that considered both geography and purpose, revealing that even underground, the Wari were masters of architecture and secrecy. Stone walls rise with precision from the uneven hillside, channels and recesses suggesting design choices that were deliberate yet defy full understanding. The passages vary in height and width, some broad enough to accommodate multiple individuals moving together, others barely wide enough for a single person, forcing careful navigation. Tool marks etched into the walls and ceilings testify to patient and skilled labor, while occasional niches and alcoves hint at specific functions, perhaps storage, offerings, or temporary ritual spaces. certain corridors intersect at chambers that remain sealed or collapsed, indicating a network that was far more extensive than what modern excavation has revealed. Each carved wall reflects the Wari's ability to shape not only stone, but also human movement and perception, producing spaces that are both functional and enigmatic. Excavators working amid dust and rubble uncover fragments of passages that twist and turn, their continuations blocked by centuries of debris and geological shifts. Early digs revealed evidence of partial chambers and small openings leading to spaces that may have been ceremonial or practical in purpose. Even where tunnels have been cleared, the full extent of the network remains unknown, creating a tension between discovery and frustration. Archaeologists must rely on indirect clues such as tool marks, soil composition, and the placement of openings to hypothesize connections that cannot yet be confirmed. The very act of exploring these galleries feels like stepping into a puzzle deliberately designed to resist complete understanding. Into the shadows, some corridors disappear, or close in so tightly that only the smallest explorer can pass, leaving their purpose tantalizingly out of reach. These constricted passages may have been intended to control movement, restricting access to those deemed worthy or necessary for a particular function. Others lead to partially excavated chambers that may have once held offerings or artifacts now lost to time. The gallery's twists, inclines, and dead ends suggest intentional complexity, with certain routes possibly serving symbolic or ritualized functions, their spatial design echoing practices of hierarchy, secrecy, or ceremonial precision. The interplay of visibility and concealment imbues the tunnels with a sense of both danger and sacredness, as though the spaces themselves demanded respect. Broken ceramics, chisels, and small carvings lie scattered along floors and in alcoves, whispering of practices that the walls themselves refuse to explain. Archaeologists have catalogued fragments that may have been offerings or ritual implements, though their precise function is unclear. Traces of human activity, soot from fires, and the occasional engraving offer tantalizing glimpses into a civilization whose underground practices remain largely enigmatic. These artifacts, silent witnesses of centuries past, suggest that the tunnels were not merely utilitarian, but imbued with cultural and possibly spiritual significance, hinting at ceremonies, storage practices, or secretive movements coordinated beneath the visible city. Scholars propose theories of ritual movement, storage, or defensive concealment, but every interpretation encounters contradictions embedded within the tunnel's enigmatic design. Some argue that the galleries allowed the Wari to move quickly and unseen between ceremonial plazas, maintaining hierarchy and control. Others suggest that portions of the network were for storing valuable goods or sustaining the city in times of siege. Yet no hypothesis fully accounts for the tunnel's size variations, dead ends, or complex intersections, leaving researchers to navigate a space that resists definitive explanation. The Wari appear to have conceived of the underground as both practical and symbolic, intertwining human purpose with deliberate obscurity. The galleries reveal not only a mastery of subterranean architecture, but also a deliberate orchestration of secrecy and experience, a hallmark of a civilization now only partially visible through the rock it left behind. These tunnels demonstrate an understanding of movement, perception, and space that resonates across the landscape, linking scattered plazas, tombs, and ceremonial sites in a hidden web of human ingenuity. The Wari's use of subterranean corridors suggests a cultural philosophy in which concealment, control, and ritual coexisted, shaping both the city above and the experiences of those permitted below. Even with modern excavation and study, the galleries maintain an aura of mystery, whispering of lives, practices, and knowledge that have long since receded into history. The tunnels of Quinua continue to guard secrets that may never be fully uncovered, preserving whispers of a past intentionally hidden from the world above. The ancient Georgian tunnel complex of Uplistsikhe. Morning light slips across the jagged stone of an abandoned chamber, illuminating shadows that have lain undisturbed for centuries, and in that quiet the echoes of Uplistsikhe's ancient inhabitants seem almost audible. The city, carved into a cliff above the Mtkavari River, reveals a civilization that shaped the rock itself into an intricate network of tunnels, corridors, and terraces. Although the first travellers may have approached the site only as a striking landscape, careful study shows that this was a deliberate creation by the people of early Georgia, who fuse daily life, ritual and defence into an underground system whose complexity has challenged archaeologists for generations. The tunnel's pathways suggest careful planning, with intersections and chambers that reflect both practical needs and perhaps symbolic or ceremonial intention. Even as modern visitors move cautiously through the partially excavated corridors, the sense of antiquity hangs thick, as though each stone bears witness to centuries of unseen human endeavour. Chiselled into the natural hillside, corridors widen and narrow unpredictably, each twist reflecting both practical need and the sculptor's deliberate shaping of space. Some passages were clearly designed for ease of movement, while others require crouching or careful navigation, hinting at functions beyond mere transit. The ceilings bear the unmistakable marks of tools used by hands that worked over generations, and niches carved into the walls occasionally suggest storage or ceremonial purposes. In certain sections, chambers open unexpectedly, their function unclear, leaving researchers to speculate about hidden rooms that may have been sealed intentionally or lost to collapse. The interplay of scale and design demonstrates a remarkable understanding of both engineering and human movement, allowing the builders to craft spaces that were functional, defensible, and perhaps intentionally enigmatic. Traces of hearths and storage pits suggest moments of daily life once unfolded here, yet these ordinary signs coexist with features that hint at ritual or defense, blurring the boundaries between function and mystery. Some chambers contain evidence of food preparation and communal activity, while adjacent rooms feature platforms or recessed areas that may have accommodated ceremonies, council gatherings, or sacred observances. Small carvings, faintly etched into walls, provide glimpses of symbolic expression, though their precise meanings remain undeciphered. The juxtaposition of mundane and possibly sacred spaces creates a rhythm within the underground city that implies planning, a choreography of movement that extends from daily survival to spiritual observance. The rock itself guides the tunnels, its fissures and slopes incorporated seamlessly into passageways that appear both natural and meticulously engineered. Geological features dictated the orientation of corridors, while the builders manipulated the stone to create continuity, stability, and access to otherwise unreachable areas. Some tunnels follow gentle inclines leading to terraces, while others descend sharply into hidden chambers, their floors smoothed and walls carefully angled. The integration of human design with natural formations suggests a profound understanding of geology and structural principles, one that allowed the inhabitants to expand and adapt their subterranean spaces without undermining the cliffs that sustained them. Fragments of pottery, faint inscriptions, and the occasional carved niche provide glimpses of practices long forgotten, teasing interpretations that remain elusive. Excavations have revealed ceramics consistent with both everyday use and ceremonial purposes, while soot marks and small pits hint at fires long extinguished. Occasional symbols etched deep into the walls suggest communication or ritual practice, but their exact significance is lost. The artifacts, dispersed and fragmentary, evoke lives lived in close quarters with the rock itself, leaving modern observers to reconstruct purpose and meaning from partial evidence. Each discovery, rather than answering questions definitively, seems to multiply them, reinforcing the tunnel's sense of enigma. Some researchers argue that the tunnels were part of defensive fortifications, others that they facilitated secretive religious rites, but the evidence stubbornly resists definitive categorization. Strategic placement along the cliff's edge and the complexity of hidden passages suggest an element of protection, allowing inhabitants to evade threats or control access. Simultaneously, the arrangement of certain chambers, platforms, and carved features may point to ceremonial use, offering spaces for initiation, offering, or observation of sacred events. The multiplicity of possible interpretations emphasizes that the tunnels were not designed for a singular purpose. Rather, they embody layered functions, each reflecting the intertwined nature of daily, spiritual, and defensive life in early Uplistsikhe. These subterranean spaces reflect the sophistication of Uplistsikhe's builders, who shaped both stone and human experience, leaving a legacy that invites wonder and speculation alike. The tunnels, terraces, and chambers are more than relics. They're an architectural narrative, encoding social organization, ritual practice, and adaptation to the rugged terrain. Even partially explored, the network conveys a sense of intentional mystery, a city that reveals itself only in fragments, with hidden corridors that challenge every visitor to imagine the movements, decisions, and beliefs of those who once inhabited them. The enduring interplay of concealment, design, and human presence transforms the tunnels from simple passages into a living testament to ingenuity and cultural depth. Enduring through the ages, Uplistsikhe's tunnels keep their original purposes obscured by time, yet whisper to those who linger that much remains hidden in plain sight. The subterranean passages beneath Teotihuacan, Bolivia. A hollow resonance echoes through a chamber of polished stone, as if the tunnels themselves were waiting to reveal a secret known only to the builders of Teotihuacan. The ancient city, perched near the southern shores of Lake Titicaca, conceals beneath its monumental plazas and ceremonial platforms a labyrinth of passageways whose origins trace back over a millennium. Scholars now attribute these subterranean corridors to the Tiwanaku civilization, whose engineering and urban planning remain unparalleled in pre-Columbian South America. Early explorers noted the unexpected precision of the tunnels, perfectly aligned walls, angular intersections, and chambers that seem to respond to both practical and symbolic demands. The initial impression is one of deliberate design, a hidden network that suggests the Tiwanaku sought to control space, movement, and perception below ground as carefully as they did above. Corridors cut with staggering precision wind beneath the monumental plazas, their straight lines and right angles suggesting an architectural plan that challenges conventional understanding of pre-Columbian engineering. Some passages are broad enough to allow multiple people to walk abreast, while others constrict to a narrow crawl, demanding cautious negotiation and intimate familiarity with the tunnel's layout. The builders shaped the rock with skill that modern archaeologists still marvel at, employing techniques that left walls smooth, ceilings level, and intersections geometrically consistent. Occasionally, alcoves carved into the walls hint at niches for offerings, ceremonial implements, or temporary storage, though their exact function remains speculative. The tunnel's construction reflects both technical ingenuity and an aesthetic sense that elevates functional underground space into something extraordinary. The builders worked with the lakebed's soft sediments and solid volcanic rock alike, carving passageways that conform to the terrain while maintaining structural stability over centuries. Certain corridors slope gently, guiding visitors toward chambers that open naturally into underlying terraces, while others plunge sharply into darkness, demanding care and courage. Geological features, including fissures, boulders, and changes in stone hardness, appear to have dictated the tunnel's routing, yet within these constraints the engineers produced remarkably straight and aligned sections, suggesting meticulous planning. The integration of human construction with the natural landscape demonstrates not only technical skill, but also a deep understanding of the Earth itself, a collaboration between human intent and geological reality that has endured for over 1,000 years. Fragments of finely crafted ceramics, traces of pigment, and occasional carved symbols hint at rituals performed in spaces now mostly inaccessible and silent. Excavations have uncovered small vessels that may have held offerings, along with soot marks that testify to fires long extinguished. Carved symbols, although faded, suggest a symbolic or communicative purpose, perhaps marking the chambers for processions or ceremonial sequences. These artifacts, dispersed and fragmentary, provide tantalizing clues to the tunnel's significance, yet every recovered piece raises more questions than it answers. The tunnels are not merely functional spaces, they appear intentionally designed to conceal, reveal, and guide human activity in ways that are now difficult to reconstruct. Sediment deposits, collapsed ceilings, and partially excavated chambers make every foray into the tunnels a delicate balance between revelation and uncertainty, with each discovery raising more questions than it answers. Modern archaeologists must work carefully to stabilize passageways, sometimes navigating by candlelight or low-powered lamps, while geological shifts continue to obscure original layouts. These challenges underscore the complexity of the Tiwanaku design, a network simultaneously practical and enigmatic, where access, visibility, and movement may have been controlled to produce specific effects on those who entered. Each cleared section opens a window into the past, yet the full labyrinth remains hidden, as if the tunnels themselves resist being fully known. Some scholars propose that the tunnels served as subterranean processional routes, aligned with celestial events, while others argue for water management or hidden storage, but no theory fully accounts for the precision and scale observed. Certain corridors may have allowed movement during ceremonies without exposing participants to the plazas above, or facilitated offerings and rituals shielded from the public eye. Others may have helped channel water, accommodate structural pressures, or serve practical functions long forgotten. The multiplicity of possibilities, combined with incomplete excavation, leaves the Tiwanaku tunnels suspended between interpretive extremes, reinforcing a sense of deliberate mystery that seems encoded in the stone itself. These subterranean passages reflect not just the Tiwanaku civilization's technical prowess, but also a sophisticated interplay of ritual, symbolism, and secrecy that has left observers in awe for generations. The tunnels encode both social and spiritual dimensions, linking monumental architecture above with hidden corridors below. Their design reveals a consciousness attuned to perception, movement, and experience, suggesting that the underground spaces were as meaningful to the Tiwanaku as the plazas and temples that rise above them. Even partially explored, they maintain an aura of hidden knowledge, a place where architecture, ritual, and the natural world converge in ways that defy full understanding. Echoing with silence, the labyrinthine tunnels under Tiahuanaco present a puzzle of stone and purpose, offering glimpses of a world whose full meaning may be forever lost to time. The Moche, ritual tunnels of Huaca de la Luna, Peru. Faint traces of red and ochre pigments smear the adobe walls, their hues stubbornly resisting centuries of decay, and the narrow corridors seem to hum with the weight of unseen ceremonies. The Huaca de la Luna, one of the twin pyramids of the ancient Moche civilization along Peru's northern coast, conceals beneath its monumental terraces a labyrinth of subfloor tunnels whose origins and purpose continue to intrigue archaeologists. For centuries, these passages remained hidden, their existence preserved only in whispers, debris, and the occasional collapsed ceiling that betrayed a secret below. The Moche, known for their elaborate ceramics, intricate metallurgy, and ritual complexity, left behind corridors that suggest deliberate orchestration, spaces designed for human activity that were both ceremonial and profoundly secretive. Early excavations revealed walls marked by pigments and traces of ritual residue, signaling the tunnel's integral role in the spiritual and social fabric of the city above. Subfloor corridors twist beneath the monumental pyramids, their walls carefully shaped and leveled, guiding the footsteps of participants in rituals that have long vanished from living memory. Some passages are barely wide enough for a single person, forcing movement in a measured, deliberate manner, while others allow a procession of figures to navigate the tunnels in silent, ritualized order. Niches and recesses appear at regular intervals, possibly for offerings or ceremonial objects, yet their spacing and purpose remain uncertain. The architectural logic is precise. Angles, turns, and the arrangement of chambers suggest an underlying plan that served more than mere functionality, hinting at a choreography of movement dictated by unseen cultural or spiritual rules. Small vessels, scattered offerings, and remnants of ceremonial fires suggest practices once conducted in near-complete secrecy, leaving only cryptic traces of intent. Archaeologists have uncovered fragments of pottery carefully placed within alcoves, traces of soot and charred earth where fires once burned, and faded pigments that may have held symbolic significance in rituals long forgotten. Human or animal remains have been discovered in select chambers, though their context is unclear, provoking debate over whether these tunnels served as sites for sacrifice, initiation, or memorial rites. The scattered evidence paints a picture of subterranean spaces that were integral to Moche ceremonial life, yet interpreters are left with only partial clues to reconstruct the practices that once unfolded here. Mirroring the platforms, plazas, and altars above, the tunnels trace angles and passages that hint at a choreography of ritual unseen by the public eye. Certain corridors run directly beneath ceremonial plazas, suggesting a relationship between visibility, secrecy, and sacred movement. Others curve beneath service areas or walls, possibly designed to isolate participants before entry into public rituals. This integration implies that the Moche conceived of the subterranean and surface spaces as complementary, a dual experience in which spiritual engagement was orchestrated across vertical and horizontal dimensions, connecting the living city with hidden zones of power and observance. Delving into the tunnels is fraught with difficulty. Collapsed walls, shifting earth, and incomplete passageways impede both understanding and access, ensuring that much of the tunnel's purpose remains tantalizingly out of reach. Archaeologists must navigate narrow, unstable corridors, carefully removing sediment while preserving fragile traces of pigment and ceramics. Each cleared section provides fleeting insight into the tunnel's function, yet many chambers remain partially buried or blocked, preserving a sense of deliberate concealment. The fragility of adobe construction adds to the mystery, as even minor shifts over centuries can obscure or alter the original plan, making reconstruction of ritual sequences speculative at best. Interpretations of these passageways vary, some suggesting isolation of participants before sacrifice or initiation, others proposing symbolic processional functions, yet none can fully explain the deliberate patterning and architectural precision. Certain chambers may have been designed to amplify sound or manipulate perception, adding sensory dimensions to the rituals performed within. Others may have served purely symbolic or spiritual functions, their alignment or orientation reflecting cosmological beliefs now only partially understood. The contradictions between structural evidence and theoretical interpretation underscore the tunnel's enigmatic nature, as if the Moche intentionally encoded multiple layers of meaning that defy modern comprehension. These Moche passageways uncover a civilization not only of builders and artisans, but also of orchestrators of hidden experiences, where ritual, secrecy and design converge in ways that continue to challenge contemporary understanding. Their engineering skill, combined with artistic and symbolic insight, produced tunnels that were more than utilitarian. They were immersive spiritual environments that shaped the behaviour and perception of those who entered. The corridors connect material culture, ceremonial practice, and social hierarchy in a subtle interplay, suggesting that the Moche conceived of sacred space as both above and below ground, with the underground tunnels preserving a ritual logic that persists in shadow long after the ceremonies have ended. Amid the tunnels of Huaca de la Luna, ancient echoes linger, suggesting rites and knowledge that may never fully surface from the shadows of adobe and stone. The subterranean tunnels beneath Çatalhöyük, Turkey, Neolithic. In the bustling clay dwellings of Çatalhöyük, smoke drifted from hearths, children darted through narrow alleys, and the rhythm of daily life hid traces of spaces unseen beneath the compacted floors. For nearly a millennium, this sprawling Neolithic settlement thrived on a high plateau in central Anatolia, its tightly packed houses forming a mosaic of mud brick walls, rooftop pathways and communal spaces. Yet beneath the routine of cooking, weaving and communal gatherings, hidden subfloor tunnels quietly threaded the settlement, their existence largely obscured until careful excavation revealed narrow passageways, small chambers, and unexpected voids beneath floors and walls. These passages, often no wider than a single person's shoulders, evoke a sense of deliberate concealment, suggesting that the Neolithic inhabitants were orchestrating space and movement far beyond what modern eyes can immediately comprehend. Subfloor passages wind through the settlement, their earth walls reinforced with mud and timber, forming hidden arteries that connect rooms, courtyards, and terraces in ways that modern visitors can scarcely follow. The tunnels rarely run in straight lines, instead bending and branching, creating a network that appears both intuitive and confounding. Certain corridors lead to small niches or depressions that may have held vessels, figurines, or other objects whose purpose is now obscure. The careful placement of walls, thresholds, and low ceilings indicates that the tunnels were intentionally designed to regulate movement, whether for privacy, security, or ritual purposes, yet the exact reasoning remains speculative. Scattered tools, fragments of pottery, and patches of charred earth hint at activities that may have been practical, ceremonial, or both, leaving researchers to decipher their intended purpose from sparse clues. In some chambers, repeated signs of burning suggest hearths or controlled fire use, possibly connected to ritual practices or purification ceremonies. Tiny depressions in the floors could have held offerings or food, and occasional traces of pigment, though faint, may point to symbolic decoration or marking of sacred thresholds. The combination of domestic artifacts and subtle signs of ritual indicates that the tunnels were multi-purpose spaces, blurring the lines between everyday life and ceremonial observance. The layout of these tunnels suggests a consciousness of communal interaction, where access, privacy, and movement were carefully orchestrated beneath the bustling streets above. Certain passages align with thresholds in dwellings or communal areas, hinting that movement below ground may have mirrored or controlled activities above. Some corridors appear to provide isolation, allowing individuals or small groups to retreat from public spaces, while others create direct connections between households, enabling clandestine communication or coordinated activities. This subterranean network may have served as both a social regulator and a spatial mirror of the settlement's complex hierarchy, underscoring the sophistication of early urban planning. Excavations are delicate. Collapsed sections, unstable compacted floors, and intersecting passageways frustrate attempts to reconstruct the tunnel's full extent, leaving the city's subterranean blueprint only partially revealed. Archaeologists proceed with painstaking care, documenting traces of walls, thresholds, and floor stratigraphy, while attempting to preserve fragile mud brick and clay surfaces. Even minor disturbances can erase critical evidence of function, making it difficult to determine the original purpose of each corridor. As a result, much of the tunnel's design and significance remains tantalizingly out of reach, leaving a settlement that is only partially legible beneath the surface. Some scholars posit that these corridors were escape routes in times of conflict. Others propose ritual conduits or hidden storage spaces, yet every theory must contend with evidence that refuses to conform neatly to a single explanation. The irregularity of passage shapes, the presence of multiple chambers, and occasional dead ends suggest that the tunnels were not solely utilitarian, yet the domestic artifacts indicate they were not purely ceremonial either. The interplay of practicality and ritual, secrecy and social function, presents a puzzle that continues to provoke debate among archaeologists and historians alike, demonstrating that early urban ingenuity was already layered with complexity. Reflecting the ingenuity and social sophistication of Neolithic inhabitants, the tunnels offer glimpses into a world where domestic life, ritual, and architectural design intertwined in ways that remain elusive to modern observers. They hint at the foresight required to balance communal living, ceremonial activity, and security, revealing a society capable of orchestrating human movement and interaction in both visible and hidden dimensions. The compacted